Okay, I'm here.
I'm glad you're here.
Good. With that, I think we have a quorum established, so I'd like to get started. I'll call the meeting to order. It is about 8 minutes after 6. We got a lot of business to cover tonight, so I'd like to jump right into it with the approval of the meeting minutes from Wednesday, May 27th. Jeannie had graciously written them and prepared them, and I forwarded them on. Eileen, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, because last time we had sound and volume issues. All right. Any comments or suggestions or revisions to the minutes that you might like to make? It was short and sweet. It was the workshop with Mike Armato last time. It was very brief. With that, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as they were prepared and distributed.
I will make it as something.
Thank you. Got it. With that, let's jump into new business if everyone's okay with that. First topic, Eileen, I was just curious, looking for, if you do have it by chance, the input from Mike Armato about their sign brackets and whatever else we had on that to-do list to talk to him about.
Yeah. Let me pull up. Where are the crowds? Hold on. Where am I? Okay, so the price for 2 new of the flute posts that we have matching the height in the existing posts. So the price for 2 new ones is $14.40. He chose to quote a quantity of 2 instead of 1 because they're discounted in both post cost and freight cost. So it looks like they're about $720 a piece, and then the 18-inch extension. Hold on, let me go back, because then the 18-inch extension is. Good question. I had it in here. Why am I not prepared? See, not feeling well. That was bad. And for the like of me, did he give us he did not give us the cost for the extensions, right? We were waiting for him. That was what we were doing.
I think that's correct. Because we talked about, I don't have it printed. I did have it printed. I don't think that included the 18-inch extensions.
Okay, hold on one second, because I think he must have texted me, and then because I thought it was all in the one email. So, but my thing is now that after Josh was saying that that's all kind of in the downtown, oh my God, I gotta like get a brain right now. I'm sorry. In the already existing plans, I mean, have we talked any more about that? Are we even gonna continue with this if they're already in the budget for the streetscape?
Maybe from the financial end, they're not to, but I think the village board was still looking for a recommendation on the signs, the wayfinding signs, whether or not financially it's included in the project or not. I'm not real concerned with just up front, more so with the layout, the design, the placement, and which ones will be applied to the signage. So we can keep working and maybe just, we'll need prices either way, but that's not gonna slow us down. And if it's part of the project, we'll turn it over. If not, we'll at least make our recommendation if that sounds good.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't know why he sends me from a couple of different emails, so I thought I had it right here. So let me keep looking as the meeting's going on, and I'll look and see how much those extensions were, but at least we know if we need the one more big one or, need 2 additional ones. They're looks like around $720 each if we decided to add on, and then I'll look to see where else he had the extensions, because I know he gave me a price on the extensions too. So I'll keep looking though.
When you find it, if you find it, if you could forward that to me when you do locate it. I did find my notes from last meeting, and the last we were waiting on is he was going to get back to as to the cost for the 2-foot extensions being added to the existing poles. And he was looking at a head count or a number of 3 to 6 pole extensions would be necessary to accommodate the signage that we were gonna come up with. And that's what he was gonna get back to you on the pricing for.
Okay.
Was
Yeah, I
there-
think,
Go ahead.
I think he might, yeah, I don't know why. Yeah, I gotta look, because I swear he sent that with as well, so I'm keeping looking.
No problem. Did your discussion involve the bracketry that we talked about last time, in that we were trying to figure out a way to keep decorative brackets if we could, because we're gonna have to transition to new signs, and the new signs require a different bracket. Did you, by chance, talk to him about that?
Yeah, there's a bunch of different options, available. Like, he'd said that for each of them, like into new ones, but he didn't seem to think that was going to be a problem to relocate those and reuse them, where we wanted, or if we wanted to try something different, like if it wasn't what we were looking for, there's all kinds of different ornamental ones. He just wants like a specific cost, like either a budget or an idea of the design. So, but yeah, he said they're kind of, I know that the only thing I don't know, I forgot to ask him about is what it will do, with the, removing them, if it'll damage or anything. So that's the one thing I gotta ask him about that, but I keep forgetting to send him a note on that one. But yeah, I'll ask more about the ornamental bracket part of it.
Well, it sounds good in that, it sounds like we're gonna have options either to preserve them or substitute something different. So,
Yes.
great.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. It sounds like, with that information, maybe tabling this till you have that info and further discussion at a later meeting. Does that sound good?
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
I dropped it. Yeah.
No problem. We've got limited people here tonight, and this is something that we can take to the next.
That's right. I mean, we're only gonna need this information when we, get approval hopefully of the CDBG at that point.
Yeah, there's no time
We
crunch.
get time.
So with that said, let's move on to the next item on the agenda. Grant application for the Christine Michelle Salon. Eileen, were you able to see by email some of the proposals? The electronic version of the application and some of the visuals.
Say what? Sorry, I'm sorry. What are you asking me again? It's a little bit.
Have you had an opportunity to review the conceptual design plan for the salon?
Yeah.
Great.
Was I supposed to get back to you? Yes, I did. I did look over. I'm sorry. I've been really bad about answering emails lately, but yes, I've been going through them.
Oh, look at this.
What'd you think? What was your initial impression?
Wait, hold on. Wait, why are you asking me? Ask somebody else. I don't feel good.
Oh,
Hold on. Let me go back to it. 1 second. Hold on.
Chris, sorry.
Wait. Did I see it? Hold on. Is anybody else there?
Yeah. Jeannie is here, and Ryan is here, and Josh is here.
Okay.
Me, I'm not here.
Hold on a minute.
Red like that? Oh. Red like that?
The masonry?
Red.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, I'll just kind of give you a brief overview, Eileen, of the project. I've been out to meet with Christina, the gal that Tina, she goes by, I guess. She's real excited about the program. The application that she submitted, I have to be honest, is probably one of the most complete and thorough submissions I've received yet in terms of detail and the detail in the bids, the detail in her plan. And I've been over there twice to meet with her. Talked about both the inside and the outside, but mainly for the purposes of the grant, it was all outside. I reviewed the grant application, the guidelines on the website again, and I had to walk through the fact that they are not intending to salvage any of the masonry. That's kind of a contradictory to what the guidelines say or suggest. The reason being, there's been perforations made and holes filled with different types of bricks, different color bricks, different size bricks They've relocated the night deposit on the bank when it was a bank, like, I think 3 times. So the brickwork is in bad shape. The original brick, what's left, is in rough shape between cracking, needing mortar work. It's just not salvageable, as much as I hate to say that. So with that being said, they've, as part of their plan, proposed to pull down all the masonry, which is on 2 sides. The front of the facade, which faces State Street, and the north side, which faces the alley and the other bank. Again, the same reason, it's in such horrible shape. It's currently been painted over, and that's probably why it was painted, because of the difference of color in the brick, the mortar, different size, and it kind of masks it. So what they're coming back with is replacement of masonry on the front facade. And I loaned her some of the facade paperwork that I printed off from that class. And she met with a mason and came up with what she and the mason perceive as a historical proposal. It's definitely in the arena. They're only putting masonry on the front and on, I'll call it a return, that runs back to where the ATM doorway used to be. It's maybe 4 feet deep. Reason being, it's kind of the front, and as you drive down, you can see it. But on the north side, they're going to replace that with siding. The existing siding on the addition on the east end of the building, there was an addition put on probably back in the 90s. It's all wood frame construction, and it was sided in cedar siding. That's been a maintenance problem, obviously, for scraping and painting. And for uniformity's sake, she'd like to re-side both the new addition and the north side of what currently is the original building that's out of masonry in the same type of material. They've recommended a concrete product. In the industry, it's referred as hardy board or hardy plank. It's low maintenance. It comes pre-primed and pre-painted. And I've got 2 samples of that. These 2 colors that I have, one is going to be the primary color, and the other is the color of the trim. They're both a concrete product. So.
Which one's gonna be the trim? The darker or the lighter?
I thought it was the lighter. The taupe is going to be the main color, unless I got it reversed.
I can't tell.
From the images, it looks like the lighter color here on the front. So the beige, I guess, based on this plan, is the primary color.
Okay.
And then this would be your accent or your trim color.
Okay.
So the building is kind of a light tan, Eileen, and then the siding is kind of a taupe, I guess I'd call it.
Okay.
And then the brick, the masonry veneer that it's not a veneer, it's a face brick. It's kind of a tumbled or aged look. It's a red brick primarily, with variations in it that lend it to look aged, chips and different things on it. Are we able to show any of this? Or is it really the experts?
Just, they can see us, they just can't see.
All right, where's the camera on this
Up
thing?
this high.
They're good.
Does that work?
Yep.
Eileen, are you able to see that?
No, I can't see it. I can't see. I can only hear.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, it's worth a try. So that's the siding and the brickwork. We've got conceptual renderings of the buildings, a lot of photos of before. For those that are here and have the conceptual rendering, if you could take a peek at page 2, this is the existing, how the building looks right now. I want to explain what the scope of the project involves, because there's some other things that need to be done in order to do this properly. There is what I describe as a curb or a knee wall. It's about 18 to 24 inches high that wraps the base of the foundation. It wraps the masonry that's there. It's been put in to fortify and support the work that's crumbling. That's the only purpose that serves. In light of the fact that they'll be replacing the masonry, this is no longer needed, so this can be eliminated. Tracks from the original appearance of the building, but was done out of necessity. So the proposal costs to have to come in and saw cut that into pieces, break it up and remove it, and then remove all the masonry on the north and the west elevations. Beyond that, I'll go through the series of bids, but the brickwork was the biggie. In terms of, I think it's going to have the most impact on the building, and her design proposal looks neat. The mason who wrote up the proposal gave a couple of variations in the proposal based on the decorative elements over the windows. I'll come back to that, but I guess we might as well cover it now. On the last page, guys, is the facade design plan. The inclusion of what's called a soldier course of bricks. It's a band of bricks that's put in vertical, perpendicular to the layout of the normal bricks on their sides. It's an accent element that separates the first and the second floors. That's one design option that you'll see in the bid when we get there. One of the other ones is the keystone or the soldier course over the windows. There's 4 windows that are on the front in the design plan, 2 up, 2 down, and over each of the windows, historic masonry buildings typically did accentuate them by arching them, whether they did a soldier course of bricks in like a fan or they used decorative keystones, both kind of add a historical element to the building. Beyond that, the rest is just the elevations, the remaining elevations, all of which are visible from a right-of-way. Whether you're on State or you're on Jefferson, you can see all 4 sides. So her proposal includes the residing of all 4 sides or refacing of all 4 elevations of the building. With that, I'm going to shift gears and go through the components of the application and the bids. This is one, as I go through this, Jeannie, are you able to like take a tally of these, or maybe I'll write these down as we go through it? There was a slight discrepancy in the totals, that's why. Normally, and I went through it twice and I can't find the discrepancy, so what I'd like to do is go through the proposals, establish an amount of the proposals, and then add them up and arrive at some sort of a total that's accurate. Okay. The first item on the list in which it was proposed. Yeah, it's well, the demolition part of it, but I'm looking at a reviewed scope. I'll briefly go through the scope. This is an itemization or a list of what they intend to do. It might jar some memory in my discussions that might be relevant. Let me go through this real quick. They're going to remove all the original existing brick. Remove it, the brick that's encased in the concrete knee wall of the band. Remove the cedar clapboard on the west, north, south, and east walls. That's the cedar siding I referred to. Remove the window from the north wall that's located by the gas meter. There's currently a window in the wall that's going to be bricked over or filled in. She needs that wall in order to establish hair stations or prep stations. So she can't have the window there. That's just simply one window that will be eliminated. It's on the north side. It's the one that faces the alley. Then she's going to remove the window from the south wall that's located by the front door entry, where the ATM used to be. If you step inside that vestibule, there's a window on your left. That's also a window that's going to be eliminated. It doesn't currently go to the exterior. It's going to be eliminated because she needs that wall as well to establish hair stations. Next is, replace the brick. I told you the scope of the brickwork. It's on mainly the west elevation and the return that runs to the entry door. That is going to be, that's something else. She's going to reestablish the entrance to the building to be the vestibule for the old ATM. The existing doorway is going to be eliminated, filled in, whatever you want to say, with a window. So the front of the main part of the building will have 4 uniform windows in it instead of 3 windows and a door. They'll put in new limestone stills under each of the windows on the west elevation, which is street facing. 4 new windows that are all Marvin and new under a similar kind of a historic design. New siding on north, east, and south walls, and then a small section, if they decide to do that, masonry or siding. They're kind of going back and forth. Not a huge issue. New Tyvek underneath the siding, new Tyvek under the brick. 2 gooseneck light fixtures and 1 light bracket on the west wall. I think they're on the front of the proposal, the new lighting. Yes, yeah. There's 2 light fixtures pretty much in line with the windows, and then there's a light bracket an illuminated light bracket, a sign bracket that's lighted, that'll be over the entrance door, which will light up the entry. Paint the doors.
So this will be, when you say lighting, do you mean that's gonna be like a moving sign, electric sign, like what I want for the change in here? Or is this, it just gonna be lit behind and static, not changing messages?
It'll, static, it'll be the business sign, it'll light, apparently, it's in here somewhere. It lights the sign and then it shines down at the same time, so it's
Okay,
not.
so the sign's not lit, somehow on this bar it comes down, like,
Yes,
okay.
and I'll show you the bid, I think it's on here, an image of it. It's priced out separately. The last detail options that we can, for recommendation, if you'd like, about the arches and keystones above the windows, or if you want a soldier course of brick, or I should say, recommend a soldier course. That's about it, that's the summary of it. Okay, the first bid I've got is for the demolition of the saw cutting of the brick. They have to cut the concrete sidewalk in order to remove the knee wall. They assume that the knee wall was poured against the old brick foundation, so they can't remove it without cutting it. Then they also have to remove an existing ramp. And I think the ramp they're referring to is the one that's currently inside the front door of the building. That has to be removed in order to close up the inside of the building. But this is the saw work that needs to be done. In total, it's $5,400. Concrete sawing and drilling. It's a demolition company. Okay.
But
Next,
there was, on the one of them, you have 40, oh, I got you, never mind. Okay,
it's
go on.
good
Yeah,
catch.
trouble.
It's a $4,200 and a $1,200 bid. For the
Yeah,
two.
I got you.
Okay. That's $5,400 in total. The next is masonry contractor. The first portion of the bid includes the demolition and removal. That's $8,000. Next is the rebuilding of the brick, the facade, and he bid it to include the return of that front door. So the bid includes the front elevation and the return. He cites the brick selection. For this bid I'm referring to is the cost of the material and the labor to do it, as well as the limestone window sills to be installed on the 4 windows. That's $9,074, $9,074. They then have 3 options for what is placed above the windows, and they vary from just over $2,000 to $1,200. I take that back. 2 of the options are for the decorative keystones. One's for the soldier course across the front, separating the first and the second floor. Soldier course option is $1,200, and the arches over the windows, I was just going to call out the more expensive of the 2, what the chips balls they make. It's $2,064. So for this basic bid, I'm going to Jeannie 4 different figures: $8,000, $9,074, $2,064 for the arches over the windows, and lastly, the soldier course is $1,200.
What's the sidewalk?
Pardon?
What's the sidewalk you want to say?
Or
are we keeping that separate?
They'll be gone. The demolition is all the saw cutting.
Right, I just
And-
wondered for the total though, do you want me to that?
Keep 5,400 side, because they're strictly demo and concrete sawing.
And we're not covering that as a part of the sum.
The saw cutting and demolition is necessary in order to do the brickwork.
Right.
So I would, encourage bidders.
I would
You can't do one without the other. You know what I mean?
So I got 2338 without.
So, okay. So far we're running consistent. Let's keep going. Unless there was any further discussion on the masonry. Next is the siding. It's an invoice from Hines Roofing. It's for the Tyvek, the siding, the hardy plank siding, in the 2 different colors, touch-up kits that are necessary, and delivery charges. This total for material only, including tax and delivery, was $39.57.35, $3,957 $57.35. That's pretty straightforward. I went through this. I've seen many of this. That's not really involved. Next is a proposal from A&F Builders. This is the gentleman that will be installing the Tyvek house wrap, the siding on both the elevations I described, as well as the accent pieces of the trim board, the corner boards, and the gable trim. He's also installing the windows and adding insulation board, half-inch foam, and Tyvek paper behind the brick. Okay, so it's siding and windows and the trim work. This bid is for $13,300. That's pretty straightforward. So that takes care of the window and siding install. Next is the window bid, of which there are 4, if I'm not mistaken. I'll go through them individually. There might be 5 in the document. 2, 2, and 1. 5 windows. They're priced separately. The window units on the front are just over $400 a piece. Wow. The total on the windows, we have a total of 4 on the front elevation, and the octagon is installed in the back part where the addition was put on by Fifth Third. The window that's there, I forget, it either doesn't function or it's rotted. So they're just basically replacing it with a window that was consistent with what was there. That's the reason.
Guy way in the back.
Yes. This guy shows up on the photos.
Page 2, the bottom one.
Yep, that's it. And windows qualify, so you get a figure on that, right?
You know, you said 4 a piece, but we didn't.
Okay.
figure it out.
The total on the windows is $2171.70. $2,171.70. That's inclusive of 5 window units.
Is that just the windows?
Yes, the labor fell under the other proposal for the siding.
Do you have revised numbers than what was originally submitted? Did you say that at the beginning?
No, what it is the numbers are the same, but my addition didn't match her grant
Well, I'm
application.
just curious, because in her grant application for the summary of the windows, it's got the 3 different types. It's got the net, or the individual price, the quantities, and her total is a little bit less than what you just said.
Does the total you're looking at include sales tax?
Doesn't look like it.
Okay.
That's probably it then.
The subtotal was $2029,
Okay.
and with sales tax it was $2171. Okay, good. Please, call it out if you see discrepancy, because I want to try and do this once and do it right. Thank you. Next is the lighting. There's 2 fixtures. This is just for the front facade fixtures, and I think the bracket or the gooseneck and then the bulbs. So 2 light fixtures are $1,025.20. 10/25/20. It's from Littman Brothers. Then next is this the lighted bracket sign, 50-inch triangle ball lighted sign bracket kit. It's $330 with taxes. Hang on, shipping and taxes $407.84. And you'll see the series of lights on this. There's 2 different sets of. It's a little hard. One looks like a can that shines. It's like they're rotated. It's a light. Okay, you got it. Next is design. The design work that was done. The artwork that we have here was $650. 650. That is the total of the bids that she submitted. And this will be the difference. This is why the stuff to the application, sticky paper. It's the painting of the doors. That's what it is.
Oh, that was a good.
This is a different bid, an additional bid as part of the same project. A+ Home Solutions, they're out of Hampshire, drafted a proposal for painting of the doors all the same color and they are the exterior doors. There's one on the back. There's the one on the front that's existing, and she's gonna repaint that door, that's mostly glass. And the bid says one interior door, but this is, I think, a typo. We're just gonna go with the exterior doors. There's 2 exterior doors, to prep and paint them is $370. The proposal I have, and it might be for the secondary door when you go in, because that'll be a breezeway. What was the ATM will now be an air chamber or an airlock, so cold air doesn't come flying in, and it'll have, it's probably 10, 12 feet long. So I don't know if you want to consider that secondary door an interior or an exterior door. Okay, then we will just go.
I mean, just
It's not monumental, it's a couple $100.
Right.
So-
Wait, are you talking about the back door or because the back door, just for sake of like Roy's thing, we'll have to exclude that. I mean, even if it brings it down $300, we'll have to exclude that back door. Just because we denied Roy anything on the back of his building, we should probably stay
The
consistent.
reason we had to deny Roy from the back of the building is because you can't see the back of the building from any of the royal ways. But this building,
You can see the back door. I guess I'm not looking at it.
I mean, that's what I'm thinking. Can you not?
You can see the door from the street.
You can
Oh,
see
yeah.
everything from the street.
Yeah,
That,
Which back? So it's not the back of the. I'm trying to see on my computer on the side. So it's
we essentially have 2 exterior doors, Eileen, to deal with. One is the front, one is the back. Both are visible from the right of way. So from that standpoint, unless, of course, unless down the approval process, we find something that contradicts what we're recommending today, well, then obviously we'll eliminate. So we've got a proposal to repaint, prime and repaint both those doors, the front and the back, and the total on it is $370. It appears there's another door, but we're not gonna talk about that. It's inside the building, is my understanding. There's no other doors besides the front and back. So let's go with that.
that's just.
Just those 2 doors is $370. The interior one, I'm leaving off.
Yeah, we can.
Okay. Other than that, that's the total of everything yet. Now I understand why I couldn't make the math work.
Right.
Okay, so
What's your total?
Oh, I can never remember. I figured you're in.
Yeah, it was, but.
And
you want to compare notes with the.
And for this, adding all of this, before we are including or not?
The series of figures I've given you are, we can consider, we are
can add it on.
considering.
Okay, so let me just see what I got here.
Go right ahead.
You'll soon find out why I'm a writer and not a person.
It should be an example for future applicants. This is a very good application.
So then, finish that.
As part of the application,
Oh.
I would have like the
You should.
Lori knows.
I bet you did.
Google map view. And
Oh, I love
think
the
this is in
picture.
there too.
Did you put that in?
No, she did.
Oh, I was impressed with that. It was nice. Very nice.
She included some photos. I don't know if she got it from Hampshire Historical or from the bank. There's a historical photo of the original building. I don't know if you can see that.
47,620.
I believe that's correct, because I missed some pennies when he was talking about this.
Oh,
But I was just a few pennies shy of you, so I believe you're correct.
47,620.
Got it. Okay. So we've covered the concept plan of what the project involves and how it might look. We've covered the individual proposals and contracts for which she's seeking consideration. Last element would, I guess, would include a recommendation that would include a percentage award. Referring back to the original guidelines in terms of how much of an impact this would have in the downtown business district and in terms of an improvement on this building, I think this leans more towards a significant, dramatic change to the existing building versus minimal. So with that, is there, you guys want to talk about this any further? Eileen, do you see anything of a concern or anything you'd want?
No, I think it looks fantastic. I think it's great. Reminds me of Michelle's project. I mean, it looks, she's got some really classy things. I love it.
Thank you for that. So we know what the totals are. I've gone through the bids previously. I did again tonight. I'm comfortable with everything that I've seen in terms of the cost, what it includes, its eligibility for the program. I don't see anything that isn't eligible. The one thing was the painted door, we eliminated that. So with that, if you folks don't have any further discussion, I'd entertain a motion to make a recommendation to the VDC. Based on the total dollar amount that we've talked about and arrived at and a percentage.
Well, I'll make that recommendation for approval of the project at 47 for the amount. And my personal recommendation would be to recommend the full 75% for consideration.
Yeah, I'll second.
Okay, you wanna vote on it, roll call?
Aye.
Yeah,
Aye.
You have to
Aye.
do the additional.
Okay. That's so long. Yeah, just rattle off everybody's names.
Yeah.
Yeah, you say, yes,
It's been a long time.
it hasn't been a long time, but I'm struggling, it says it,
Do you want me to roll
What's the
call it
verbiage?
as the secretary?
How about that?
All right.
Let's let you run the
Uh,
video.
roll
Committee
call.
member Eileen Flurry? Aye or nay?
What?
You have to say
Oh.
yes or
Oh,
no.
I did. I'm sorry. Yes.
I have to- Bill
Aye.
and me, aye.
Okay,
Is that official
thank you.
for you?
That works. Okay. Next item is the vintage hammer. I received and forwarded another application for another grant. This is the antique and collectible, the vintage hammer over on Washington. I went down and met with Christine to review the scope of the project. And can we do this the same way in terms of the bids, the
Yeah.
dollar amounts and
Just
what
write
they're
down whatever
for?
you say.
This project is also a very nice project, well-prepared application. And she was able to explain the things that I did have questions on. So I'm gonna continue to meet with people because it helps a lot. Her main facade is facing Washington, which is the south. And she's also got some maintenance issues that they'd like to address with the east wall, which is the longer wall, the white wall, that runs down the gap between the Guardian Angel Bassett rescue place and her place. The biggest, most dramatic change I saw was removing and replacing the overhang. There's an awning out front shingled in rough shake shingles that she's gonna take down completely just over her half of the building. Keep in mind, the building is twice, she owns half of it. And the facade right now is, oh, thank you, Josh. She owns the eastern half of the building and is gonna remove the existing facade and they're gonna terminate the end of it so it looks uniform. Basically, they're gonna cut it in half, remove her half and replace it with a new type of, kind of like a pergola design that's overhangers. It overhangs probably in the same location, but it looks really different. It'll be suspended or supported and suspended by, I think, 4 iron rods. That looks similar to some things I've seen at some restaurants and bars and things like that. The next part of the proposal would be to perform maintenance tuck pointing on the front. There's some masonry that's cracked. It's allowing water to leak into the building as well as leak through the existing awning. So by removing the awning, it opens up and exposes the masonry so the necessary maintenance can be performed, which will, obviously preserve the masonry and help stop the water from leaking in. Oh. So it's kind of a multifaceted.
Look at profile. I'm like, what is that?
What you see there is
It's upside down.
the proposed, is it upside
But
down?
it's upside down.
You sure?
So I just flipped it.
Oh, he flipped it, so now it's right, but it was upside down.
Okay.
So I was like, and then
Um,
the other thing that confused me is, why did the gray, I mean, is that the sidewalk, is that what? 'cause-
foundation,
Is that what that is?
looks like it goes down about 4 feet and support on footings. It looks like more of an engineer's.
So that's underground thing, okay, because that's the only part I was confused, I'm like.
Yeah, that's your sidewalk out front. Her proposal includes a couple of light fixtures, which you see there on the design. She's gonna change the sign to be perpendicular to the storefront, not screwed to the front. So that's just a conceptual, but you get the idea of the overhang there. Yeah. All right. So that's the concept and scope of the project. I'm gonna go through each of the respective bids for the work. Let's start with height construction. This is a bid to remove the existing awning, 40 feet of it is going to be removed, and repair the neighboring awning. Technically, the work on another building obviously is not part of this. You can't pay under a grant program to do work on someone else's building. So I don't know how we're gonna wade through this, if we have to break this down and say 7,000 is to remove, whatever the amount is. 80% of it is the existing awning, the additional repair to the neighbor's awning, we can't include that. That's not part of this. So what we'll do, what I suggest we do is put a dollar amount in here subject to a more descriptive and specific bid that separates the two.
The fixing part.
You got it.
separate
We
from-
know
yeah.
what the total cost is.
Right.
So I just need the breakdown as to what the other would be. So, the total on this, well, that's the removal of the awning is what this includes. Patching the neighboring awning, get rid of the debris, and then building the new, he calls it an awning arbor out of solid cedar suspended by 4 metal rods, based on the plan. His bid includes the tuck pointing as well for $3,500. So the total on this proposal, $11,550, and this will be for the awning work and the masonry work that's necessary on the two sides. The east elevation, which is the largest elevation, and then the west elevation, the front facade. They're made out of 2 different types of brick. The south-facing elevation is a face brick. The entire east elevation is simply CMU masonry units, cinder block. So it's currently painted, and they're going to propose that it be painted, even though that contradicts what it is. But this is not an aesthetic masonry type of thing. So anyway, you got the total there of $11,550. Okay. The next bid I've got is for the electric work. They have to terminate the existing masonry and then run new masonry for the new sign. And I'll go through this in a little bit more detail with you. I'll give you the total because that's kind of how it's priced out. And then I'll go back with the detail and we can talk about what we want to eliminate. The bid's from Redwire Electric, they're out of Huntley. The total is $3,370, $3,370. The scope of the proposal includes front facade, village hammer, the following items. All of it's going to be done in surface mount, what's called surface mount conduit. In other words, it's not buried within a wall, so you will see it, but you'll see it on the inside of the building, is what I was told, which is fine. They're going to demo the existing light and cap the electrical and the existing overhang. There's light fixtures inside the awning that shine down on the sidewalk. They're going to have to eliminate them and cap them or cut them off. They're going to add 2 openings in the brick for the light fixtures to eliminate the building signage. And then adding 2 gooseneck fixtures on those new supplies. And she's got specs later in this for the light fixture. So this is the labor to do it. Next, the proposal includes to add a time clock to control the lighting. And that's fine, so the lights will go on and off, I guess that's part of it. But what came to mind is the proposal says to run it if it's from the electrical panel. My question was, where is it? I pictured it being all the way in the back of the building and having to run a certain home run from the back of the building all the way. It's right in front. When you walk in the door, the electrical panel is right over here to your right, so it's already in front of the building. So I don't have a concern with the need to add a separate line to power a time clock that's going to control the lighting. It's related to the lighting. Next is adding a separate 20 amp circuit for it to power it. And then adding an opening at the front door for a light fixture, just a wall mount right next to the door. and she's to produce that. So this is all the labor to supply all the electric and install the fixtures, but not the fixtures. She's also got an outlet on here that she wanted mounted on the new awning to power kind of like those Edison bulbs, a series of string of lights that hangs string of lights out there. So I didn't see any concern with that. It's going to add ambiance and style in the front of the building and complement. Total's $33.70 on the electric.
And those are like permanent ones, the way that they're built?
The string lights, they're typically, because they're so susceptible to weather, they last, you get 2-3 years out of a set, but they just plug in, you just pull them out and toss them.
Oh, I see, so it's for, okay,
Kind of like Christmas lights, they don't last forever, so. The gooseneck lamp fixtures, they look pretty much very similar, the only difference is the shade. And she said, I can get that to you, it's not a huge difference. There's 2 different diameters and 2 different shade styles. These are the 2 different ones. I've got a price, but not Eileen, did you get this paperwork by email? Did it do you any good? Okay. The price on the light fixtures is here somewhere.
Sorry, I was on mute. Yes, I did get this.
This, by the way, was attached. I don't know if you saw
I know, I
this.
looked at this, I got a question, I'm like, what
I
is all
asked
this?
her, man, she didn't say what it was for, but it's not for the grant. I said, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
It's
all
all
I need to know.
interior stuff, like bar stuff.
Yeah.
So you're broken down pricing and everything.
Yeah, I don't see what you're doing.
So total-
Isn't it on the contract work page? I mean, you got total $33.70? Or is that, was that part of the electrical? No, I'm sorry, that was the electrical.
Yeah, I didn't think it included the fixtures itself, because it also says that she has to supply the fixture that goes next to the door. I could be wrong, but I would suggest that we move forward based on the electrical work, and if it includes the fixtures, hey, great.
Well,
If
it
it's,
says, doesn't it say add 2 gooseneck LED light fixtures? That we're talking about.
yeah,
It's just not broken down into a nice itemized list, but
you know what, I think it does include it, because look at the final sentence, you're right, Josh, it says see included specs. So he's referring to the light fixtures, so this does include the 2 light fixtures. Right. So $33.70 is inclusive of the fixtures, thank you. Labor and material. So that is all the components, I just got this too, like within a week or 2 ago. Submission is very timely and an opportune time.
So I have one question for you guys.
Yes.
What do we think half a building this way and half a building with the existing? Is he taking the entire awning off from both sides of the building? You're gonna have, at the end of the day, part of our responsibility is total aesthetic of everything.
Yep, I'm glad you brought this up.
I'm curious because I'm struggling imagining it.
The building now was built, I think, in 2 different times, it's 2 different heights, but that's irregardless. She has half of the, we're looking at, you're right, half of the building, and right now it looks consistent or continuous, was the most appropriate word I was on. We're gonna be cutting this in half, and one of my questions to her was, what's your intent? What is the owner next door, what is their intent to do with their awning? And the response I got was, they wanna see how it looks first.
we're talking about this whole big oven right here.
Yeah, we're not taking the whole thing off. She's taking just the half that's on the front of hers.
Where are they gonna-
Here's the roof line that separates the 2 units, or the firewall. So basically, right down from there, she's gonna split it in half, and then they're gonna put a chamfered edge, just like is here, on the front facade, so it matches his. So the inconsistency came to mind to me too.
Can I say something about that?
Yeah, please.
If they do it well and they do it right, it's gonna look fine. It will be just like when you look down State Street, you have all the different buildings and the different awnings that belong to, Peterson's has got his copper awning, and then you go further down and you've got, the meat place, they have their awning, it's a separate building, if they stump it out properly, the one that's old will look like it does, and then the new one will be not sprung out from that like a weird thing, it'll be its own separate start and finish with nice edges, and I think it's gonna look good. It would just delineate the difference between those two buildings a lot.
I agree. And at first, when I saw the plan, I had reservations about that. From a uniformity standpoint, I'm kind of like, okay, it's all uniform. I thought the same thing. And then after I thought about it more and digested it, I was more comfortable with the difference in the awning. The other thing too is, and when you drive by now, it kind of looks like just one big building. By separating the two and putting a different awning over hers, I think it's going to draw attention to it. It's going to draw attention to her business, the building itself, and add a little bit, I don't want to say a current spin, but the awning that she's proposing looks kind of neat. I think it'll add a refreshed and renewed appearance to the buildings over on that going down Washington. But that's just my.
The only thing I want to bring, we have to be conscious of, if it doesn't look good, right, that's gonna be tagged on us, right, as part of the heck of the village. So I guess one of the things I think I'll bring up to DEC and maybe we can ask, so I live in a 3D modeling world all day, someone can model this up with a little bit more detail to where, all right, give me a real view of how it will look. And I think the second question we have to ask is the awning that's there bad? Do you think that it needs to go, and again, I'm not the guy to ask that question. My wife does all of our decorating.
Can I project it?
But those are the two things I would think is gonna come up with the next.
What it looks to me like is, not only is that awning gonna be so very different, it's gonna set that building apart, but if you look at the elevation of the old, and it's kind of hard to see, but it's like a quarter, it starts at about, if you divided the building into 4 or 3, it's closer to the top. It looks like the new is gonna be straight through the middle, if I'm looking at this. So it's gonna be dropped, it's gonna be significantly different from that which is left. So, assuming our drawings are to scale with what it looks like, it's gonna be completely different and separate, but I agree with you, Brian, there's no reason why we can't get a cleaner look.
Some more detail.
Yeah, like, the 3D modeling or something to show.
And we do think, because that's the other thing too, obviously, we're in a tight year too, that's the other thing I think, there's gonna be competition for dollars. If we do think that does need to be replaced at awning.
Yeah, there are some maintenance issues with it.
Okay.
Due to the leaking water, the underside of the soffit, I'll call it, the underside of the overhang, the wood it has some rot issues.
It will eventually be felt holes and tears.
Yeah, absolutely, it's gonna be,
Gonna be that.
yeah, it's not great now, I mean, it's just
Yeah.
aesthetically completely.
Okay.
It'd be nice if they could pull the whole thing off, but.
Just so you're aware, at some point, they did remove all the cedar shake. It did used to have cedar shake, just like across the street at the cave, the ones on State Street. And at some point, they peeled it all off and replaced it with architectural shingles that do not appear to be installed correctly. They're ripping off. And the way that the shingles were laid, well, I'll let you drive by and look at it. It's gonna be a marked improvement of problems now. So not only does the existing have water issues and rot and decay to the underside, underneath it, she's got water coming through the light fixtures and stuff, but that's from the water issue in the masonry. But the shingle job was not up to typical standards. So, good point though.
I would like to, and
When I
again,
first saw
I'm just anticipating as we go through the process, and this year is gonna be an interesting year. Because we're gonna have, we only have $75,000 total in budget. And I think, for this one to compete, I think if we can get a little bit better with 3D model on that front side of it, I think it's gonna improve. But those are just my gut thoughts.
I'll read you my initial takeaway after I review the proposal. My first and largest issue was, please provide background narrative on discussions with the neighboring property to the immediate west as it pertains to their participation or lack thereof in the replacement of what is now one continuous and consistent awning along the south elevation of the two adjoining properties. The other comment I had was similar to what you said. provide a street view perspective rendition of how building and adjoining west property's south facing facade will appear after the completion of proposed partial removal, partial termination of existing awning, and partial replacement with rod supported pergola awning. So, yeah, those are two.
Because this was, Phil, you remember this from back in the day, that was.
Oh, yeah.
It was all one big
Yep.
building.
Yeah. It was.
Yeah.
But it's now like two halves. In fact, they
It
were
is, they
They
split
were
it.
built at two different times because the bowling equipment were of different decades.
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
yeah,
I never go.
and then the front was a pool hall. Remember that? It was like, you could play pool.
Is it?
Yeah, you could go to
Oh,
the front
yeah.
door and that
There
was
was a
like a bar.
vending machine
Yeah.
there. Oh,
You
that's
get
right.
video games, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so that's something that I will go back and touch base with Christine about, is getting a little bit more detail on the artistic view or street view, whatever you call it. Do we want to entertain a motion to do something with this? We need to talk about percentages and what you feel, what she's proposed, and what kind of effect you think that might have, and what kind of percentage we might consider recommending to the BDC. Eileen, do you have any thoughts about this proposal or this awning proposed per model?
Yeah, I mean, when I had it, when it was the fitness center, it was the awning just in general, just even the ice. I think that it was hard because if I didn't get out with people walking back and forth in the wintertime to the library, it was always an issue. I do wish that she could carry it all the way down. I mean, I think, do you guys know him, Jeannie, or do you guys, Bill or Jeannie, do you guys know or Lynn too, that security guy that's next door? What's his name? Don? No. I'm talking about the guy that owns the.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know him personally.
Because I mean, I don't know how much more.
First name is Dan.
What?
First name is Dan, I think Lynn said.
Oh, Dan, that's it. Yeah, but I mean, he's super nice. But from what I mean, he seemed to be very nice. But it was just too bad that I mean, even with the rest of the stuff being done, I know what you guys are saying about the, being at uniform, but I agree with Jeannie. I think it'll just kind of look like how downtown looks. The buildings are all together and they're got their differences. The only thing is I'm concerned when they do go to cut that awning, is it, it's just being that blunt cut.
I can speak to that. Eileen, I can speak to that. What they're gonna do is perform a cut to separate the two, and then they're gonna reproduce, if you wanna call it the tapered gable end that is currently
good.
Yeah, so it's just gonna shrink it. It's gonna look identical other than being cut in half. It'll be half as long, but it'll look the same where it terminates and wraps back into the building. Can you visualize that? Okay.
Yep, yeah, absolutely. That's what I was wondering, if that, then, how they would make that, if they know that they're trying to make it look like it's, not just hanging there, but, yeah, I like it. I mean, I think that it's going to look great. I think, again, they're kind of all mocking each other. It's all kind of going to me looking like they're trying to do what Copper Barrel did. And I think that's kind of what we were kind of hoping that a lot of people would follow suit. So far with Christina Michelle and then with this, I think that they are kind of, with the gooseneck lighting and then, just more of the rustic looking. I'm for it. I think it's a great idea. I'm good.
Let me ask this. What kind of an impact do you think it has? A very dramatic one or kind of a moderate impact? Or what's your thoughts on the degree of the project and maybe what kind of percentage we should commit to or recommend that be committed to?
I think it's a big one personally. I mean, I think it's huge because, I mean, it's kind of giving it more of like a Geneva feel, like how Geneva's got their cute little shops and stuff. And if you get, some of these antique kind of places, if you get a good enough pieces in and good enough word of mouth, people will really travel from out of town. So, I mean, honestly, I think that as it's got that cool feel to it, that people do want to come and check it out. I think it is a big impact. very big impact.
Okay. Do you need any thoughts along that line?
The only thing I think is that, and I don't know if the DDC has the same individuals on it that it had when I first started tracking these people, but they're not as excited about awnings. I don't think they're gonna agree with us if we say 75% at all. Nowhere near, but we can let them be the heavies.
Yeah, I mean, don't put us in that position. No, I
But
mean,
there's just facts.
it ultimately, what do you guys think? I mean,
Yeah.
I think it's, the process works best when you sort of give your, and I think it is important to Bill's point to have a,
Yeah.
you know, have a type of project that is 75, have one that is 50, have one that is, because we gave 52% to Harvest Crafts, is that right? Not Harvest Real Estate. We did
Right.
25% for a chiropractor place because they did an audit. Now, I'm not saying, and I'm just giving you
No, right.
guidelines,
But
it's what you guys know, but.
What I'm thinking for myself, and I love the project and I think it's gonna really improve that counter, but when you look at when you look at a Copper Barrel, and you look at Tina's new project, with all the brickwork and all the real investment in that kind of stuff, we're not quite there.
Thank you.
This, I believe that this is an awesome project and I want to fund it, but I just don't know that 75% for this one, because of the fact that it's not, we're not breaking out windows and changing brick, and, I mean, we're not changing brick, are we? Did I miss it? No.
No.
So, yeah, that I would say in that case,
Keep in mind, a good portion of the pipe construction bid, 3,500 of it is for the, call it maintenance and upkeep of the masonry work, the tuck pointing that's necessary. So that's really not an enhancement, that's just a maintenance issue. The balance of this bid is the bulk of the cost, which is $8,050, and that's to remove the awning and replace it.
which done well is gonna make a nice impact on there.
It is, but and I don't know how we wanna look at this, if we wanna say, does the resulting project have a significant impact? Or is it, the effect down there, the rest of the building is gonna be intact, she's not doing anything with the masonry other than maintaining it,
Yeah.
not pointing it. Eventually, I think they'll probably paint that sidewall or whatever, that's not part of this. But the front facade, it's basically a swap of the awning, is the extent of the project, and adding gooseneck light fixtures, which will look great.
Right.
From that standpoint, I don't think it compares to some of the other significant projects, like the Copper Barrel, the Christina Salon, or the Gabbard.
Or Roy's.
Place.
What Roy did.
Or Roy's, you're right, that's still much more significant than that. So I kind of share your sentiments on the percentage of the award, or
What do you
what we
think,
should.
Eileen? Do you think that too?
I don't know. I'm kind of back and forth because of the fact that, we went, I know that the Zaffi's place, we had more, extreme makeover kind of thing, but I get you with the awning thing, because we did kind of decrease that down, but it's such a change. I don't know. I'm kind of back and forth with it because I do think there's a lot of traffic that goes back and forth between there. So I guess if it's almost as if if it helps to get more people going, I don't know. I'm very wishy-washy today. I think that the awning, maybe is that what you're saying, that we only gave the chiropractor a certain amount and that we shouldn't do the entire awning at the full price? Is that what we had come up with before?
I can't recall the specifics on what we did on the other projects, but the reason I brought up the other projects was to say that let's talk about the degree of the effect on the facade and what this is how much of an impact this is gonna have. It's gonna have a significant impact, but I don't think it's significant as some of the projects where we've awarded 75%, is what I'm trying to say. So.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, even just, because Roy's was just tuck pointing, and but they actually, what did they do to the brick as well? Did they?
At Roy's, they did tuck pointing, repaired a lot of the brick issues that were present, and then they did an application of masonry stain that eliminated the inconsistency in the appearance of both the masonry and the mortar. So they wound up unifying all the masonry that was constructed at multiple times, different decades, different bricks.
It
And
was a hodgepodge and now it looks
it
like it's
was-
all one.
yes, and the outcome, it looks completely different than it did before.
Yeah, no, yeah, I get that, because I was thinking that's what she was doing. When I was looking at the architectural things, seeing the darker, I was thinking for some reason that was added in, but then looking back, I see that it's not. So yeah, I agree that if it's just the fixing and then the awning, that I may not go with that. You know, if she did say that she wanted to do the staining, you know, to give it an actual different look too, then I would say yes, but I would probably recommend like a 50% on it, personally, I think.
When I was out there, now that we're talking about this, I had taken a series of photographs, so if I needed to show them, we could bring them up. The first is the underside of the awning where water was penetrating and coming through the roof, but I'm gonna get to your masonry point here, Eileen, they're just in this order. Same thing, there's rotten decay where the thing is attached, the awning is attached to the front facade. This is the masonry issues that exist above that awning.
Right, yeah.
There's
There's not like
cra-
crack and a hodgepodge looking.
There's step cracking of the masonry as it goes down, and there's tuck pointing that's necessary there's a solid precast cap on the parapet wall. It's the top cap, which is of a different material. The mortar between those joints is compromised. In fact, it's right in line and it's running down. The masonry work that they're proposing is to grind out that mortar and fill in all those cracks so water doesn't come through it and down through the top parapet wall. This is over on the corner. You can't see it so well in this picture, but the masonry again is it's been compromised.
Mm-hmm. And is this gonna be repaired in such a way that you're gonna see that band of concrete coming through?
Yeah, I
Okay.
think masonry.
So that makes a difference.
Yeah, you'll see the repair. They'll do their best to match the mortar to the masonry and the existing mortar, but you can only do so much when
Right.
it's a repair, as you can see with the third. This is below the window where you walk in.
Yeah,
The window's to the right. It's just a vertical crack in the masonry that needs to be there. Right out the mortar, the brick units are actually split. So it's a combination of a failed joint and a failed masonry unit. So all you can do is grind it out and remortar it, and you'll see it. These are the side walls. I mentioned earlier, the cinder block walls, it's got much more substantial cracking to have to tuck point than the face, the street side does. The side running down this side of the building needs a lot
it's
more
just
work.
ugly and awful. I mean, that's gonna be nice to have that fixed.
Yes,
And then you said they're gonna repaint it.
not as part of this, but
project, but it's
eventually, yeah, there's talk of that. Jeff had mentioned that before when they were finalizing their project. They're gonna approach Christine about it, but anyway.
But still, that's cinder blocking.
Yeah, it's almost no train of thought. Anyway, that's the extent of the masonry work, so it's just gonna be maintaining what's there, Eileen. So this is what I propose, how about if we establish a dollar total of what we got for the project? Where are we at with that? Do you need to add those up, or do you need to have a total? Okay. I was gonna,
14,920.
14,920. Okay, so she submitted a grant request for consideration in that amount. How about if we make a recommendation, or I'll entertain a recommendation based on the dollar amount, and we can propose a percentage contribution. All our comments are well-founded, and it's not that the BDC can overturn it, they can increase it, they can reduce it, and ultimately it's more. So what I would encourage is, or consider is a motion with a dollar amount and a percentage, and we can move it along, in the spirit of moving it along. I'd like to entertain a motion. Yeah.
And can we, if we could add a stipulation that we'd like to have a more detailed 3D from the street view, because that's gonna be important. I'll make a big deal of that.
Did you also want a breakdown, a separation of the dollar amount that had to do with the neighbors?
Yes, Josh, thank you.
Yes, no, good call.
Separate the awning bid, because we know what the total cost is now. It's just a matter of them separating. So, one is we need more detail in the artistic or street view. Similar to what we got for GABR, they produced some really well-done electronic, whatever you want.
Well, and Christine Michelle gave us some, I think, this is nice. Well, maybe not the same 3D room, but no, I thought you're right. Gabber did a very good job getting us 3D.
Okay, so I've got two stipulations. One is a better artistic view, street view.
And
The
so-
second stipulation is separating the awning amounts to show the work on the other building, the adjacent building. Was there a third thing?
And then, yeah, no, I think
Those are the two
those are the
stipulations.
two. And then what we really want to be able to do is see what it will look like with half that awning and half this new
That's the
awning.
key
That's
one.
what we need to see.
Yes,
I don't need to see more detail on the one they're gonna do.
We
need
wanna see-
How's the whole building gonna look?
that's the.
Because I don't want the eyesore on my walls.
No,
You know, if it's not, because things can be done for them. You know,
Yes.
and not saying it against Jeff, sometimes you imagine something's gonna look great. I just want them, let's just do it and
And I'm sure we'll,
Hey,
we
Kat,
have to know that.
I'd like to
before we-
know
yeah.
that.
Yeah, I wanna see what it looks like. That's a good call.
Great checks.
Okay, so,
That's
and
all.
then,
Sure to look gorgeous.
so you want me to make a motion?
Seems like it might be appropriate. Yeah, for the table, or you want to recommend with this?
No, we don't wanna table it, because BDC, then she can turn that around,
She
BDC
can
can then
turn
go,
it
and then we'll have our motion in. Eileen, are we agreed at 50%?
Yeah,
Okay, so I'll make a motion to approve the facade, bid at $14,920 for 50%, with the stipulation that we can see a separation for the awning separation, 3D modeling or some greater detail of what the front is going to look like, and then the difference between the two awnings and how they're both going to look on both sides.
I'll second.
If you wanna do a roll call, we'll begin.
Yeah, roll call, Bill,
Aye.
Eileen,
Aye.
Jeannie, aye.
Okay, that gives us a recommendation for the BDC. The rest of these items will go a little bit quicker, guys. Thank you for your consideration on this. I know it was kind of lengthy and a little bit involved.
Just real quick.
Yes.
For your information, just because I get the impression that maybe you've never had this before. Up here is some quick financials of what you've done so far this fiscal year. We've done the 3 grants, and with these 2 now, as is, not with the stipulations, but as is, this year would have about $13,400 remaining in the budget for the facade program.
Out of the 75, correct?
Right.
We started with.
Where did we go?
Hey,
So that's after if any of these projects were approved or.
If both of these were approved as you approved them tonight,
so we.
not including any stipulations that might have things taken off.
Does that include the payout for the work that was done, or is that part of last fiscal year for the Faithway Baptist Church project?
This is only this fiscal year.
We snuck it in.
We got
Thanks to
that.
your group,
Oh,
actually,
that's right.
getting that approved
Okay.
the night before.
Wait a minute,
fiscal end.
Faithway Baptist?
Yes.
No, Faithway Baptist is this fiscal year. Gabber got snuck into last fiscal year.
Yes,
Got it.
but it's Faithways in this number, correct?
Faithways was 18,430.
There we go, okay, good.
Ah, okay. Good. Okay. Thank you for the updates on the financials.
Yeah.
Josh, it's good enough.
Very nice.
Yeah.
13,000.
Next item on the agenda, the cave possible grant application. I went and met with Gina and Dave Ruth on Sunday and did a walk around of the property. They are in the process, just initial steps of getting proposals and getting their project scope defined. They're talking about maybe adding or replacing a stairwell. Stairwells are included, stairs, outside where there's currently is one, and expanding the outdoor seating. They don't have any right now other than the COVID stuff in the parking lot. But they're gonna add outdoor seating on, it's a 2 elevation wraparound on the building. So, but they got a lot of work to do, and they, they're just in the initial stages. I wanted to mention that. Update on the speckled fawn is that if she hasn't yet already, she was gonna be pulling out of the building, and I don't know what she's doing with the business. But she'll no longer be there, and that's no longer on our radar for a grant program. That's been one I've been calling and emailing,
Yeah.
and working on it for probably close to a year. Unfortunately, I'm sad to say it's dead in the water.
Yeah, well, and I think one of the things that we're shifting towards is a new use for that building. So I'm working on a couple of things with, I'll have more to report next couple of weeks.
Great.
So we'll see, we'll keep your fingers crossed.
Good to hear. The next item is the light pole banners that Jeannie graciously offered to involve us, solicit our input. I'll
Yeah.
turn it over to you.
So- Okay, so, you all got an email with the old one, I didn't, print that one out. And so, you know, working with, this committee, as represented from the chamber, the signs that we have currently, they're in pretty bad shape. And Dave, from the, water department or the streets department said, when I very first got started in the job, he came to me with, Jeannie, what do you want me to do with these banners? They're not good. And I said, oh my gosh, I just started. Give me a couple of weeks to think about it, you know. So now time has passed and I went and looked at them and they're faded, they're bad. So they need to be replaced and it's a moneymaker for the chamber. But I came up with some various designs and I wanted to keep in with branding, with the village. This is the village font, this is the village red. These go up spring, summer, and fall. They are up all year round typically, not this year obviously. And they are replaced for Coon Creek and at Christmas time they have Christmas banners. So this would be something that you would be looking at all the time. At the bottom, we sell logos to the various businesses and that's what the income comes from. So they purchased the logo at the bottom. We designed this part at the top. Before it was that sort of a stylistic tree with purple and green and different colored leaves. But I know the village is focused on branding and so I thought I'd get that gold and get that red in there. And then I thought, beautification, there's a good place to get some input. And it's fair to say, I hate all of these. Okay,
No, I don't think so.
completely.
I think that one
You like this one?
is, I don't know if it's, I'm a Van Gogh guy,
Sunflowers?
but I think with the, I just say I like that a lot.
What I like about something like a tree or flowers is because it kind of covers the 3 seasons. You know, what do you think, Bill? Because you had a look in your eye.
I like when they rotate them out, it adds a refresh or a new feel when you see, summer banners are up, fall banners are up. So from that standpoint, the change out part, I like, the need for seasonal, you know.
Well, with this project, we're only gonna get one,
Okay,
so
so it's gonna
'Cause they're
cover all
expensive.
seasons, so it's
Yeah,
not gonna
we'll
be
be
just
able-
Christmas trees.
Christmas
Or
will be,
summer.
the Christmas banners.
Okay,
Coon Creek, they have something else they put up.
oh, okay,
And then these are
the rest of
the rest of the year.
Okay,
So that's why you kind of go with, you know, if you have sunflowers, I mean, spring is flowers, fall is sunflowers, summer is some, you know, that kind of goes, you know, this honky little tree here, maybe, some random leaves, we got wicker paws, yeah, I don't know. When you sit down and try to think about what says Hampshire, you know, that's why the chamber doesn't have a logo yet. It's 'cause-
Well, technically, that says Hampshire.
Yeah.
Is the foot, but
Yeah,
from an aesthetic, I don't like it, I think like that one the least.
yeah, I would guess.
I'm not, but that is the closest to same
It's like,
Hampshire,
yeah,
by, yeah,
it is,
right.
it's whipper country, but
But-
we're more than that.
Is there so in other words, it's gonna cover a few seasons,
Yeah.
these banners, they'll be up.
Yeah.
So we're not gonna do something that's clearly seasonal.
No, it's totally warm weather, you know, the spring through fall, basically, and then.
This is kind of neat because it's a symbol,
Mhm.
okay, and it isn't leaning towards one season or another.
Right. It kind of says growth, you know.
Yeah, I like it, and then the fact it's multicolored, it's just,
Yeah.
it's cool, that's fine. This one I like as much or more just because it's a symbol, it's a compass, right?
Right, it's a compass, it's a compass rose, and I thought to get one that's a little bit more intense, and then when we were looking at the streetscape, which we haven't got to yet, one of the considerations is basically a compass rose built into the
I
crosswalk.
saw that,
And I thought, man, if we could echo that, that would be slick,
yeah.
you know, that,
Talk about tying it together,
right.
cohesion between the plan and the.
I
band.
mean, and I don't know that anybody else would think that's a compass rose, but when I looked at this, I'm like, oh yeah,
We
I
saw
can
that.
totally see how that would marry up in there.
That does look cool. I like the color, like, I'm more of a color
I
person.
kind of like the
That's-
red
I'm
with the
not
gold.
into images most, but I like how those colors come together. And then if it sort of ties in the symbol and you can tie it in,
I feel like it should be a little bit more intense with the north, south, east, or west, or something, you know, that's so faint and delicate, but, I mean, if we could find a little bit bolder one.
Sure, a little more contrast with getting out more.
Yeah.
The directions.
And it's more consistent, I think, with the way that we're behaving, because that to me is a stronger image,
Yeah.
like a strong, and we're, if
It is
anything,
kind of like
we're
Hampshire's your
strong.
true north, you know, it's like, that's where you
Yeah,
find people
yeah.
that, small town America, they know right from wrong and in and out and all that kind of stuff. I mean, that, to me, it gives that kind of a feeling, like we're going in the right direction kind of thing. But I like this one too, because I like having a little bit lighter of a banner.
Yep.
This is more of a fall
Yeah. It's like
kind
the
of a color,
colors on that.
but I think this is
sunflower
striking, I like the color.
Do you have the option, or is this the cost prohibitive, to do a mix of the two, like have complementary colors between the two? Like you've got the gold with red lettering, you have red with gold lettering, more or less, and then just the symbol changes and, you know, you stagger the.
I'm
Banners
afraid,
or not?
I'm afraid that it would be cost prohibitive,
Okay.
we're kind of getting these on the only thing's changing is the
Got
little bit about
Okay.
kind of a deal.
I like both of those. The others are nice as well. I like the fall one. For what it's worth, it's my 2 cents.
Okay.
Jeannie, did you get, or Eileen, did you get copies of these?
I
Oh,
did, yeah.
I
Yeah,
don't-
I love it.
You guys think, okay.
I don't know that you got all of them because I was working on them after I sent. So I don't think she
Oh,
got
I got the one that you had I'm thinking that you guys were talking about this one. I have the one that you had the street banners, the location of where they were in 2016, and then the one with the tree and the purple and the orange and the green.
Yeah, that was the old one. And then did you get the samples that I took?
It's so funny because I'm looking at it, I'm like, God, that looks really familiar, but I guess I'm just not. And then I'm listening to you guys talking, I'm like, okay, and I'm not, I didn't scroll down where it says 2017-18 sample. No, wait, I'm trying to look and see.
And that was sent, Bill, probably 3-4 days later, sent you another set. It has, one of them has sunflowers on it. I don't think she got the gold one.
Okay.
Got it. Hold on.
She's able to see it on that.
She's just.
I don't know if she can see it
Oh,
on the
that's-
screen. I think she's called in.
Okay.
You're right.
Oh, I got it. Okay, sorry.
Or
All right, so which one? Oh,
right.
okay, yeah, this is way different. So the one,
Oh,
you talked about the one with the tree?
It jumps more.
uh,
Giving those.
Can you say that again, Eileen? I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. So which one is the one with the tree?
They like the one with the sunflowers. They like the compass one.
And the tree with the multicolored leaves on
But
it?
she doesn't have that one, because I
Oh.
just created those two like yesterday.
I do. Number 5.
I don't know, slide down, I can't see what you've got. Can you slide down on the screen, because
I have number 5 and 6. I have up to 6. So I have like the palm kind of one, the plain one, the one with the words. Then I have the compass.
But I changed the,
Tree.
on that tree one to a gold
Oh,
back
okay.
with red letters, so that's.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
So anyway,
And
that,
that one I don't have, right? You just brought that tonight.
correct, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I like the concept and I trust you. You're very creative. I like it.
Thank
If you
you.
like it, I like it.
Well, I think I'm gonna work on these 3 that you guys like. These 2, I mean, we're pretty much onto these 2, right?
I do like the crimson background, I think.
Do you like it?
Personally, over, what do you think? Over the,
Crimson is burgundy, what color is
It's
burgundy?
burgundy.
Okay.
yeah,
reddish.
it's probably much more burgundy than it's crimson versus the yellow, what do you
The color, I like them both.
think?
If you wanted the tree on that, that's what it would look like. But if you like the gold,
Hmm.
because then we can just kind of decide between that tree and this. What about Welcome to Hampshire versus just Hampshire? Is it?
I like welcome.
You like Welcome?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Welcome for you all.
So funny.
Wait, hey, Jeannie, text me a picture of the one. Just take a picture of the new one and just text it to me, then I can see it.
All right, I can do that right now.
Wait.
You're so smart, technology.
Oh, you know. Every now and then.
Okay.
Okay, I may not get it away right away. You can keep going.
Yeah, okay, we'll just keep going.
You wanna wait for her comments to say or move on? I'm
She
sorry.
said, go ahead and move on. because-
Yeah, no, I'm good with it. I trust you.
Okay, with that, let's move on to the next item, revised beautification and procedures. Josh spent a lot of time revising the grant application program, the prerequisites, the flow chart, the mapping process. I went through this and I was like, oh my God, do we need this? This was long overdue, guys, and completely revamped with much needed clarifying elements.
We already went over that though.
Did we?
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
this is-
recommended that before BDC got it.
That's right.
I do remember covering it at the BDC, that's why, okay.
The village board's already approved.
Good.
And,
It is,
Move on.
okay.
Good.
very, very well done.
My compliments to Josh.
Absolutely.
Well done, my
Good
friend.
chef.
Much
It's
needed.
exactly what we were thinking when we were thinking of this.
Yeah.
That's, it's the first of many processes.
With that, we'll move on to the next item, the GAVR supplemental grant application. They withdrew the application. I had some questions about it and they just decided to table it for a while. So with that being said, there won't be a supplemental grant this time. The next line item, or agenda item we have is for the streetscape concept plans. We have some initial plans from some PRI, correct? Couple different plans, or I should say two proposals, which I was spending some time on, really enjoyed them. But with that, I think we might have a gentleman by the name of Daryl along with us today. Do you have a presentation of the preliminary concepts that you'd like to talk about?
Yes.
With that, I'll turn it over to you, my friend. Let her roll.
All right. Good evening, good afternoon, everyone. Yes, I have a couple concepts to discuss. I believe you guys should have them in front of you. But we did meet with Jay and a couple of the administrative staff there just to review, as well as the engineer, just to review some two concepts that were based off of one, some information we had gained from our field walk, we'll say, prior to being selected for the project. And then, of course, our experience in designing corridors in communities similar in size and scale to what's going on there in Hampshire. So if you have concept A in front of you, I'll tell you, those that have that in front of you, excuse me, from our perspective, and walking through the community, we felt the core focus of the downtown area, State Street, should be the corridor between Jefferson Street and Washington Avenue. We felt that could be like the go-to location for special events, summer dance, outdoor markets, just different things that were going on, and that you typically have in the community, as well as those that could be pre-planned. And again, I know that we're not talking budgets, but you only had the grant that is in question is about $1 million, a little right at $1 million, and it doesn't go too far. But what we wanted to do then was kind of channel the money where it made a major impact. And so we selected this block. It seemed like the block or the corridor, area of the corridor to kind of invest more of the dollar, our concentration of efforts, we'll say. So we kind of deemed that as the Festival Boulevard. We kind of call that the Festival Boulevard. That's the go-to area within the streetscape. The other areas would have some remnants, which I'll get to in a minute. But again, we're going to focus on this one particular block. So as it relates to the overall design and vision, one, we know parking is definitely important, obviously, to support the downtown area. Parking is definitely important. Have to be blind to realize that in an area such as the corridor there in Hampshire, to know that parking is not vital. But we also looked at the practicality due to the roadway width that's there now. Angled parking on both sides, even though I know that you guys have it there now, but angled parking is limited to one side of the street in our design, because we wanted to make sure that we had sufficient area for the road, the cars, the dimension of the cars and the pedestrians that are there now. And I don't want to use the word legal, but the ones that are legit spaces, we'll say. So what we did was we introduced parallel parking on the opposite side of the street while still meeting the minimum roadway dimensions. And it also created a buffer to the pedestrians along the one side of the street there, the west side of the street. So the redesign of State Street, it also includes 2 permanent mid-block landscape areas. We included these that would visually as well as physically narrow the roadway, create more of a sense of a traffic calming, slow the traffic down, while yet providing a green landscape buffer between the sidewalk and the traffic. We saw those areas as being potential areas for rain gardens, so they could capture some of the water, stormwater, of course, it's runs off from the street into these areas, and provide like another educational opportunity to educate the young people of Hampshire as to what recapturing rainwater does and why it's important. But nevertheless, those permanent mid-block landscaped areas, in exchange for greenery, it did impact about 6 parking spaces. But nevertheless, we realize and recognize that there are 2 surface lots, one to the west along Wren Avenue, and then I think one down Washington Avenue that those 6, even though we're eliminating 6 here, that it could be made up in those surface lots. The sidewalks. The sidewalks would be a combination of brick paving and stamped colored concrete. Again, want to make that dramatic impact. The blocks preceding that, we'll focus on, minor improvements for the most part, more concrete. But in this area, we're different brick patterns. It could be in combination with intricate colored concrete, different brick sizes, but nevertheless, just more of an interesting weave of brick in there in that area, yet to govern the floor and keep your eyes, create more of a welcoming space here. And also incorporated within these pedestrian areas, it would just make it more of an inviting atmosphere. The intersections there, they create more of the, that's more of the sense of arrival. You see those curb extensions, those are mobile. Typically we call those bulb outs. We introduced those to provide increased pedestrian space, as well as an opportunity for social interaction. Those bulb outs, they also provide traffic calming. They'll slow the cars down, as well as create more of a shorter distance for the pedestrians as they're going back and forth across the street, while yet maintaining the current levels of service there at each of the intersections. That being the one at Jefferson and the one at Washington Avenue. We do see those as being brick as well. Again, that's creating that wow factor when you get to that block, leading into the festival block. Of course, ADA accessibility is definitely important. So we did make sure and want to point out that that was one of our primary goals. So concept A, raised the elevation of the street. We propose that it's flush with the concrete, with the sidewalk, separated merely by the planters, which we'll get to, movable planters and or bollards. But that way, when you do have the festival space, it makes it a lot easier for accessibility for those that are going from the sidewalk space into the overall roadway when it becomes more of a plaza space. More barrier free and smooth and level. space there. The scale of State Street was important. We felt so we introduced, when you look at the existing buildings there, even though none of them are more than 2 floors, it's just when you're in that exterior scale, it seems like you need to bring the ceiling down. So to do that, to make it more of human scale, we introduced what a system called catenary lights. What they do is they provide direct lighting onto this area that we're calling Festival Boulevard. And so it also lowers the ceiling. Those string lights would be about 20 feet in height. And we believe that would definitely create the ambiance that's needed during the evening festivals and help enhance the overall pedestrian experience. The lights would also, or the corridor would also include, period style street poles and fixtures. The ones that are about 26 feet in height, they would provide a lot of the structural support for these catenary lights. So those are the tall ones, not with the Cobra head, but we definitely have a period type lighting fixture on top of it, or in like a gooseneck hanging over it. Excuse me. Street trees as well as landscaping. It was very difficult to put street trees along this particular block. The way this concept was laid out, that's why we did introduce the catenary lights. Typically, most people want to see some type of regimen of landscape trees. But given the fact that there was a series of awnings, especially on the east side of the street there, and one or so on a couple on the west side, we took that into account, and that's why we introduced the catenary light system. However, at the intersections, we did introduce street trees. At the intersection of Jefferson Street, that's where we have 4 street trees that obviously are the type that can withstand urban conditions and could be stemmed up. And in those planters at those intersections, well, again, that creates that signalizes to the resident that you've arrived at the in the downtown area and the festival corridor for the most part, or area block. At the base of those, we have the low profile shrubs and that are yet, I don't like to call them maintenance free, but they are low maintenance. They're again the type that can withstand these harsh conditions where very minimal maintenance is required for the village, would be required for the village. There's some movable planters, and I'll get to those in a second, unless you have that supplemental sheet in front of you that has some imagery exhibits on it. There's movable planters with a bench attached to it. That's what we see along the corridor there, where it's in between the light poles. So it provides that physical as well as aesthetic barrier and look from the street to the overall sidewalk. So it gives the pedestrian a sense of structural barrier, even though it's not necessarily totally structural, but they get that psychological sense that there's a separation between the car and them. And then, of course, when there's an event that takes place, those can be moved throughout the block there in whatever fashion they need to be, and yet provide the necessary greenery along the corridor during the regular average day. We also introduced a lot of public art. As you move further north of the corridor, there's at the terminus of the festival block, there's an area there that we are introducing public art. There's public art in the design of the brick pavers. I did fail to mention that. There are 2x2 foot squares that we could see being placed strategically throughout the streetscape, and obviously it should be something that has some historical significance or resonates with the Hampshire residents. But introducing those interspersed throughout the paving, as well as at the terminus, as I mentioned, an opportunity for temporary works of art or exhibitions that could be located to kind of inspire or kind of just highlight the community or raise awareness. But that would also be serve as the terminus to Washington Avenue there, where it meets there at the intersection. The village's the time clock, the village's vintage clock that they have in their possession. We wanted to find it a home in both schemes. In this scheme, it's located at the intersection of Washington Avenue and State Street, just on the east side of the street there. You'll see some areas of blue behind it. What that is at the base of it, we're showing a water feature, more of a bubbler feature for the most part, where the water bubblers don't exceed 12, worst case 18 inches in height. Just a series of them. It's more of a series of them, more of an interactive fountain or interactive water feature, where the young people or whoever, the kids, if they want to just run through it, but it's really more visual. But it is at grade, but the bubblers themselves are 12 to 18 inches, and it's recycled water. It's fueled, of course, are energized by recycled water itself. The from Jackson Street to Jefferson Street, as well as Washington to Keys, those are the we'll say the block before, we'll say south of the intersection there at Jefferson, and then of course the remaining blocks just north of Washington. Those would be treated as the transition zone, and we see those definitely as the transition zones. Of course, on the extreme south side, we have limited availability to plant a lot of trees, but I'll get into that in a little bit. But we took advantage of the walk space that was there, and we do see opportunities to just get splashes of color and whatever landscaping we can get in terms of street trees in some of those areas. But for the most part, it's very minimal improvements, just enough to lead them, serve as that transition from the residential on the north and south ends of the corridor to this very high, what we're going to deem as focal corridor, focal block there. That's for the most part all the aesthetic elements of this concept. Again, if you look at the overall imagery exhibits, you can see pictures of a couple highlights that we're showing there of the overall light fixtures. There are two that are shown that we'd like to present as something for consideration. Again, they are the 26-foot high poles, but that's the style we could see being introduced into downtown Hampshire. You can also see the bench seating that I mentioned, the movable planters and the bench seating that was shown there. Also, I did fail to mention at each one of those intersections, those bulb outs, we're showing bollard lighting. The bollard lighting would mimic or be similar in style and character to the overall 26-foot high lighting light fixtures that we're presenting. So those would be at the intersection of Jefferson, as well as and the intersection of Washington Avenue. They also could be interspersed throughout the festival space, again, to provide that physical barrier and psychological barrier between the sidewalk and the roadway, since the roadway is flush with the sidewalk. I think there's a couple other images there. One, you know what the clock looks like, but we do have a couple images of the water feature, the bubbler feature that's there that we proposed. Again, just something a little interesting, serving at the terminus of the overall festival space. You also see we were very mindful of the fact that there's the Firestone facility there, the garage there at the end, because those seem to yet have the overhead doors that could and are more active, we'll say. So we terminated, obviously, a lot of the brick major work there at that end of the garage. So that's this particular concept. Concept A.
Can I
Concept B.
ask you a question real quick? Just real quick on the bubbler, and I'm trying to get a good view of, like, so that's in front of the library, correct?
It's actually in front of the library, and so is the clock, yes, right at that intersection, that corner.
Is there any thought, I mean, I don't know, and you'll know more of this, but now the bubbler is for like the kids to kind of play into, correct? Like it's,
They can put
or
their
is it
feet
just-
into it, yeah, and walk in,
Okay.
in. It's not that large.
Is there, it's not like a safety issue, would it be, because the tracks are right there, you know, like if it,
Correct. Well, there's a good little
Having-
distance from there to the tracks, I will say. But also on that image exhibit, and it might be on the second page there, there's a small railing I didn't mention, but there's a small railing that could be proposed around the sides of that to provide that containment. If for those that would be concerned about it being right there at the street, yes.
okay, because I can see like, especially some of our residents having that, like, why would you put that right next to a railroad track? You know, I mean, like, where we, you know, like from where we're at, because people
Correct.
like to say things about the littlest things in town. So, like, I was just wondering if that is something that, like, that, I mean, is it ever a consideration that it could be, like, over at Jefferson? Because I think the initial, wasn't it supposed to be the clock was supposed to be at Jefferson and State, like, on the west side of State?
We have a second concept that does show it at the intersection of Jefferson and State, yes. But it's on the east
Okay,
side
so
though,
just
but
tell
we
me
do
to
have
stop
another concept.
talking.
No,
Yeah,
no,
please
you're
stop
fine.
talking and then we keep going.
You're fine.
Okay,
You're fine.
okay.
Yeah,
all
we
right,
just wanted to
keep
give
going.
you some options, things for you to consider.
Okay.
You know, we got to have some throwaways. But I
Perfect.
do believe if you look at, and it may be difficult for you to see the concept, but the water feature does not extend beyond Wren Street, even though it's at the end of the library. That water bubbler does not extend beyond Wren, so you know what the distance is there if you can visualize that. There's a good little distance there, whether you're walking in a car, obviously you can get there in 20 seconds, but to walk from that area to the tracks, or a kid to get away from you, so to speak, there's a decent enough distance, we felt. But again, it's just something to consider.
Okay.
Something to consider, yeah,
Okay, thanks.
not a problem.
Have you guys done that, the thing that caught my eye the most was the lighting.
Yes,
Is that common?
the overhead lighting or the street?
It seems like it has a potential like magic touch in my mind, like it could be something really special, but I also think it could be kind of hokey too. I just wouldn't mind seeing, like, these are just not constructed images, are these real images of downtown somewhere?
Those images that are shown there are real images of real places. That's becoming pretty common, pretty popular, we'll say, in quite a few areas where they're redoing downtowns or small communities. And again, they're not doing the entire areas; they're doing like signature blocks, like we're proposing here.
Yeah.
Daryl, can you provide the committee members with any nearby locations where they have that kind of lighting?
I can tell you where some are proposed, but I definitely can get them a list of the local installations. I can't say all of them will be local, but I'll do what I can to find the ones that are local. But I do know there are a couple that have been proposed right here in the suburbs of Chicago.
I think that would be helpful.
Yep, I can definitely do that.
Hey, Daryl, this is Josh.
Yeah, Josh.
If I could just back us up or raise us up, 30,000 foot view, whatever. So this committee is, I guess, the second step, and then there's the BDC and then the village board. As we continue to go, what kind of things are you looking at feedback wise from this committee so that you can make adjustments as you continue to go? I know maybe they don't know yet. There's another plan that you just sent today that I have copies of for everybody here, and I can put it up on the screen as well. So just what kind of feedback are you looking for? I mean, do you want to know what kind of lights you should go with? Do you want to know if the benches are cool? Is that the kind of thing you're looking for here?
Yeah, thanks, Josh. One of the main takeaways that I believe we're looking for to move forward to one single concept is more of the aesthetic features, more of the site furnishings. A lot of times, as it relates to the hardscaping, whether it's the paving being flush with the sidewalk or it yet being recessed, the amount of brick where that goes, again, that's budget. That's going to depend on the budget, and it's also going to depend on engineering as it relates to the layout of the parking and drainage and all that. So I don't know if that's something we'd want to waste our time trying to give a lot of comment to, but I mean, we definitely welcome it all. But more of the aesthetics, like was mentioned with the overhead lighting. Is that something you like, something you'd like to see more of, something you'd like to see less of? or the benches. Even though what's shown there is more contemporary, we'd be looking more than likely have to make them custom because we want them to mimic the lighting and the bollards or have some type of characteristic semblance to the lighting and the bollard. But that was just to give you an idea of what could be done and that they're movable features. We'd love to hear that, or if someone says, I don't see any bike racks, where are you showing bike racks? We'd like to hear more about that.
Eileen.
Is now exiting.
Yes. Well, I hope she didn't leave on my account.
I'm still mad about those bubblers.
She got sick of the bubblers. Okay. But
If that's the case, then let me just say a couple things that I have on this graph. I like the idea of having the stamped concrete and the brick, whatever, that, not brick necessarily, but the stamped idea is beautiful. I think that really makes an impact right off the bat. There's gonna be a lot of pushback about that parking issue. That's not my pay grade. So I'm not even gonna say anything about that. Where you have the little bump out, I'm sorry, bulge out. Thank you, bulge out. Any kind of plantings or anything in there is gonna really affect visibility. For whatever reason, you can't see around those corners as they are.
yes, if you notice, those trees are pushed back. They're pushed back into the rear of the bulb out, and there would be plants that would be selected, or the tree specimens that would be selected are the type that are thin in texture, thinly textured where you can see through, but for the most part that are stemmed upward. The type that grow in an upward fashion where at the car level, you definitely have that. It's not going to obstruct visibility. There's certain street tree types and specimens that are selected for all types of situations like this so that they don't obstruct visibility. Likewise, the plant material at the base would be something more of the native type planting material that would stay low and again, low maintenance, but it's definitely all low profile where it kept that visibility when they're open.
Is now joining.
Sorry.
Hope I answered your question.
Yes, you did.
Okay.
Daryl, would you like some constructive feedback? You've got two plans here, or two concept plans. Are you basically just looking for some input on each of these two respective plans, or what's the idea?
Yeah, that's it. I believe we were asked to share it with you guys in order to get your aesthetic eye and direction on kind of the if it meets the vision that kind of you as the Beautification Committee saw for your downtown, and if there's something that needs to be added or like I said, reduced or eliminated. That's what we'd like to hear.
In the spirit of saving time for both you and us, would you rather us give any comments regarding the plan that was distributed today? Or is this like a third version? It says preliminary concept. Josh just distributed copies of the new plan.
Well, it's not really a new plan. It's really based off of this concept you have here. I just was showing more of the wings. I didn't. What you have here didn't show the area from Jackson to Jefferson, and nor did it show the area from Washington to Keys. So that's really the difference. Other than that, it's exactly the same as concept A, other than we did show the clock because we felt that did need to be at Jefferson and State. The clock tower or the clock itself is shown at on the east side of Jefferson and State. Other than that, everything's exactly the same.
Okay.
So they're not two different concepts at all.
I think what's important to generate in the way of comment from the Beautification Committee is the sense of direction that you all see as it relates to, as Daryl was saying, the concepts, the parking strategies, the bulb outs. If you see anything that you think is not that doesn't fit with what you as a committee have been talking about for the downtown as it relates to the quote unquote beautification of the downtown and the vision that you have for it, you need to share that so that when this gets presented to the BDC, it's it takes into account your thoughts and your comments.
Okay,
So what do you like and what do you hate?
got it. I'll take a step back. I'll offer a couple of comments, Daryl, for what it's worth.
Yes, sir.
I'll take a step backwards and talk about big picture, because that's what this is about. I commend you on both phases or both plan concepts, in that it approaches it from what I would describe as creating a people space and a gathering space. And that's consistent with some of the information that I've reviewed in the Main Street program. And in terms of creating, you from that standpoint, big picture, you hit a home run. I love the direction you're going. Down to some specifics about Plan A, the bubbling thing, the bubbler, whatever. And I know it's just an idea. I wouldn't support something like that in the downtown area. The Park District just put in a bubbler down at the other, one of the parks in town. It's an awesome facility. We're gonna have enough to manage and deal with, let alone a self-standing bubbling unit at the intersection in downtown Hampshire. Kids are out in swimsuits. Don't get me wrong, I'm kid friendly. I love the idea, but maybe just not here. If you're seeking for the input and contribution of a water element, there are other water elements, and I think one that the downtown would support, and that with the addition of the greenscaping that you're adding, a fountain of some type. A small scale, not a huge thing. It might be too much with the clock as well, but for what it's worth, if you're interested in adding a fountain, it would be less expensive to add it. It would be a standalone unit. You basically need to run electric to the site to power it, which you'd be doing anyway, bubbler. But anyway, for what it's worth. Some other ideas, things that I saw, the addition of the greenscape, not only where the trees are at, but the planting beds. I think that's all a thumbs up. It'll complement what the what's it called, the Botanical Society or the Garden Club has been doing. Maybe there's a way to work those together. In terms of the bench combination, custom garden bench / planter that moves around, great idea. I would encourage us maybe to consider the utilization of the existing benches, which are of a historic nature. They're black. They'll complement black light poles. They get used now. They were dedicated by various folks in town, businesses in town that donated. And if there's a way to incorporate those, they're already here. They're very well built. They've held up for a good 10 years now. They're not falling apart or rusty. Just an idea, maybe the addition of some sort of planting thing. I know where you're going with it, to provide a green space or a buffer between the public and the street. And you want something that's mobile that can be moved. I don't know if there's something that I can come up with that would work, and I'm drawing a blank. But what I've noticed in other municipalities, downtown Dundee, downtown St. Charles, and Geneva, where they'll have a park bench mounted permanent to the concrete sidewalk. And on either side, they might have a decorative urn that's out of concrete and looks kind of ornamental, and they've got minimal planting in it, but the combination of the bench, the pots, and the greenscape, the finished product is just awesome. It's classic, it's historic, and I think maybe reflective of Hampshire's historic past. Something like that would look neat. So for what it's worth, I know the concept plan was just an idea, a starting point, and it was contemporary, but I struggle with something being mobile. I understand the need for it, but that's where you come in. You're the design guy. Other than that, those are just a few of the small things that I saw. Overall, the gathering space that you're trying to create here, I think, is phenomenal.
Great. Thank you, sir.
Bill, what do you think about the overhead festival type lights?
I love them. I've seen them, and I can't remember where, if I was in Madison or somewhere, but in one of the downtown areas, it creates such a neat ambiance at night.
At night, yes, it does.
It's really, really cool, and it can be done a number of different ways, different fixtures, the Edison bulbs or whatever. Thumbs up on that. Great call, and it'll create, I think, build it and they will come. That helps contribute towards that theme.
Yes, it will. Thank you.
Out of curiosity, can you tell us a little bit about in Plan B? What is that blue fancy thing?
Sale.
Yeah.
You call it a little fancy thing, huh? Well, the only difference in this particular concept, other than the parking that's flip-flopped, which we know there's some challenges, being honest with you, we yet need to rework that, or it's that possibly would have to go by, as well as I believe the sawtooth curbing that we kind of proposed there, which I knew was going to be a maintenance nightmare for Public Works, but it yet provided us areas to install trees along that corridor in areas that we obviously couldn't before because of the overhang of the canopies. So we wanted to get them out away from the face of the buildings a little bit, but nevertheless, that's the street area, the festival corridor area or pavement area. At the terminus there, just as a focal feature, is a and you can see in the image the representative imagery sheet that you have there. That's really a sail structure. It's 3 sails that have a high point on one end, as high as we'll say 40 feet in the air, arched. Obviously, more providing a structural element as well, and it also provides shade and color in the downtown that would make it very dramatic as you're coming northward, as well as going south. It's just you got that festival bricks pavement as you're leading up to it from the south, so it could make a dramatic entrance or a sense of arrival, obviously. From the vehicular standpoint, when you're just when it's open, but obviously when it's closed and you're having those special events, it provides that focal point, that stage, that cover to the stage, that area for the entertainment, that overall central area that everyone looks to for the mayor, the speaker, the president, whoever, different things that are going on there. And it is high enough. The lowest point would be 20 feet in the air. The other portion of the sails, fabric sail, tinsel structure is what it is, would be as high as 40 feet, which yet provides filtered light and can be removed in the winter to preserve it. But it's really totally up to you, up to the owner. We've used that type of system in a couple other facilities we've designed. And sometimes they take them down, sometimes they don't. It just depends on what Public Works or the maintenance department says. But the manufacturer says they can remain up, but they last a lot longer, obviously, if you take them down every season at the end of the season. So that's primarily the differences of concept A and concept B. Each one of them, maybe the paving design looks different. Yeah, because again, we've got to work that out, but we did at least just want to show different options of what could be done. This one has a little more concrete interjected into it as opposed to just all brick. And then of course at the terminus there, this is the one where we moved the clock, vintage clock, to the corner of, or the eastern corner of Jefferson and State. And because we do have the focal of the sail at the terminus, and the clock would be that welcome element along with the trees at that intersection to the south. And where the fountain and bubbler were, as well as the clock, what we're showing there, if you look at that image, the representative imagery sheet, is introducing more native landscaping there. The grass, the ornamental grasses along the high point, but that too could be a rain garden, so we wouldn't necessarily have to have grasses in the center. It could be low in the center where it could capture rainwater, and then just an informal naturalized stone that we try to find something unique just to serve as that terminus there. That imagery kind of captures what we were thinking. Whether that goes or not, that's just kind of what we were thinking as it relates to that. And of course, I did fail to point out that all along the corridor, especially along the bulb outs, I know you guys are working on the wayfinding and directory signs, that we're showing those at some key intersections there, as well as I noticed you guys looking at the banners. I know you're working on that. This scheme, because it doesn't have the lighting, the overhead catenary lighting system, the string lights, we were proposing, because we do have the street trees in some areas, we're proposing more pedestrian scaled fixtures, period fixtures, so they're only 14 feet in height, and those kind of lighting styles are shown on that imagery plan as well. On the concept A, of course, as I mentioned, they're the 26-foot high ones. That's where we could have a lot of the banners that you were kind of discussing earlier on the backside. Create that color. That's basically the difference between the two.
Can you do the trees and the overhead lighting, or are they either or?
I would say either or. I think they conflict. There are some images that I found that the string lighting was spaced a lot differently, and they had the lighting going through it, whereas we wanted it to kind of make more of a, you only have one block that we were focused on, so we thought to leave the lighting, the trees out of that one. We could look at something more ornamental and low in nature that kind of is more of a shrubby type, if you want to get more green in there. But to me, you don't want to compete with the overhead lighting. You want the lighting to stand alone and itself. The lighting, overhead light, as you're looking at combining elements or picking and choosing what site features you really like, the question was asked of me from a professional standpoint. I would let you know, I don't think, if you like the sail, I don't think the sail and the overhead catenary lighting work well together. I think they compete with one another. I would do one or the other.
What do you all think about the sail?
You know, at first glance, it's a little bit on the contemporary flair edge.
Yes, it is.
Whatever for me, and I'm more of a conservative guy, but I gotta be honest with you, I saw the evolution of the waterfront project in downtown Elgin along, just up from the riverboat. And in fact, I drove through it today. Took that roadway, and I have a much different feel for it. I have an appreciation for it. Would it be my number one choice? No, but do I like it, and am I open to it? Yeah, it's got a cool factor. It's kind of neat, but if it competes with the overhead lighting, if I had to choose between the two, overhead lighting.
Yeah, that's my personal opinion. I think it competes with the two.
Yeah.
Ryan, what do you think?
Bill may have just taken the words directly out of my mouth. I'm not sure that the sale is Hampshire.
Yeah.
Right.
I just don't feel like it's.
I agree.
And I feel like
I agree.
the lighting actually accomplishes what the fundamental goal is, which is creating a home space or a place where people feel comfortable to gather. And, you know, yeah, I think that's just more us, my opinion. And I do like the plan B. I like how you sort of alter the angle and the parallel, because I think the other way is a bit unfair to one side of the street over the other.
Mm-hmm.
I think that has kind of, I'm more of an equity guy, so I think that's fair, and also has a balance to it, which is interesting.
When we discussed that with EEI, they had a concern about, I don't know if the right word is geometrics, but about the safety issue of doing that. Am I right, Daryl?
Yeah, their concern, which is valid, is because if you notice as it gets toward the center, where the center of the block, you have the 90-degree or the angled parking backing out at the same time into the street, as well as from the other side. We need to give it more of a transition when we flip from one side to the other, and the block is kind of too short to, I think, provide an adequate transition. Could we put one in? And the residents of Hampshire just know, you just got to be careful. We can all say that in plan, but in reality, everyone that parks there may not be a resident of Hampshire. You never know. So I think that was their concern, is we need to flip parking in that nature, the way it's shown. We should have a little more of a buffer from where the first tree on the east side begins to where the angled parking begins. Because parking, the one that's parallel parking in that last spot before the tree could be trying to get out, while the person in the very first angled parking is trying to get out at the same time. And that's where we need the buffer. We need more of a transition zone. Transition of just curb only.
On that,
And to
look at those trees along that, like in the center of the block there, that they look like they take up the walkway. Am I misunderstanding that?
No, this is more just a graphic representation. The trees that we would select, and again, I can't guarantee that we'd be able to get them out as far as we'd like to, but they would be the ones that have more of an upward branching nature.
Trunk is basically in the street.
The trunk here is actually in the street.
Okay,
Yeah. The trunk is out from the sidewalk, coming up, because again, that's why we created those bulb outs. I'm sorry, not bulb outs, the sawtooth, I call it. They go out as the full length of a parking stall. The parking stall width is between 9 and occasionally 10 feet. I believe these are 9 feet. So from the edge of the existing edge of the existing sidewalk now, on an angle, go out 9 feet and then back 9 feet. That's the distance that sticks out. So that's enough room for a tree, yes. Because it would be in the center of that. So you're at least 5, maybe 5.5 feet away from the existing sidewalk now, is where the base of the trunk would begin.
Is there anything missing that you were hoping to see?
It's a colorful set of plans.
I would like just to add one thing, and Daryl mentioned this at the very beginning. No budget has been attached to either one of these concepts, but I think we pretty much agreed that in either case, there isn't enough money to do everything that's proposed in either one of these.
How close do you think, Brett? Ready? 50%, or we give you a ballpark?
The only response I can give you is that I did a streetscape project in another municipality, one block. We had about $1.3 million. We didn't get planners. We did asphalt 4 full blocks at one time, and then just had one intense block, but we didn't get planners. We didn't get any ancillary improvements. We did not get brick pavers, and we went over budget and got contributions from a couple of local businesses. So I don't know. I think
we really can't make an assessment of that until we see real numbers. I mean,
no, we need estimates from the estimates from EEI and the estimates from PRI.
Yeah. We will be meeting this week. Definitely we have a meeting on Thursday, but I'll be doing some work prior to that so that when we do meet with EEI, we can at least hopefully have some rough numbers as to what the surface elements are. Again, he'd have to speak to the underground infrastructure and the overall constructability of the roadway type numbers. That's something we could not provide.
So we have a beautification or a business development commission meeting on the 8th of July. If we certainly would welcome, it's already on the agenda. I sent it out this weekend. We'd certainly entertain you guys joining us. It would be nice for us to give some more specific feedback if sort of numbers were included, even if they're budgetary. They don't need to be to the penny, but we don't want them within 1,000% either. Something that's close. And I mean, these are things that we thought about for a long time, and we're excited about doing, and we want to maximize our opportunities. So we want to give you the direction you need.
Oh yeah.
I had just one question of the committee. Do you guys have any particular reaction to the bulb outs on State Street?
Necessary, absolutely. Traffic calming, pedestrian friendly, and to slow the vehicular traffic up and down State Street, absolutely necessary.
Yeah, I agree.
Yes, I totally agree.
As did I. I was just curious how you all felt about it because you guys live there and experience it. So I was hoping that was the response.
Yeah, you're
Yeah, those corners are really bad because of you have to creep out anyways. So I think having it, I think we've talked about that before, that having them there will help to avoid some of that issue of having to, creep out and almost get halfway into the intersection before you see if someone's coming. So I think that was talked about that helps that issue, correct?
Yes, it would.
Because you don't have the parking spots there.
Yeah.
There's
Yep, love it.
Daryl, is there anything else that you need in the way of information?
I know we're running along on time, but if Josh has that, it's the extension of the concept that he mentioned earlier, which again is really the area from Jackson to Jefferson and then from Washington to Keys. I would like to just share that with you just to know our thoughts. Just as Freddie mentioned, and we said we're concentrating most of the area of the improvements along the Jefferson to Washington Street corridor block, we'll say. But we knew we needed a transition, and I believe in order to be a grant-worthy project, it needed to be more than one block. And so what we did was treated the entire downtown, at least look to see where we could get some minor improvements that could yet just give a hint of or provide that, we'll say, that transition and have you sitting on your toes like, oh, I'm coming up to the major area, just a hint of what's going on in the downtown area till it leads to the overall, we'll say, signature block. So if you look at that first one there at Jackson there, you'll see we only introduced the bulb outs on the one side. And again, it shows a slow transition leading in from the residential area there. And for those that are familiar, which I know you're all very familiar with, that block there, it's a nice block. That is the block where the Village Hall is. But as you cross Jackson on the west side of the street, it's barely a 4.5 foot wide concrete block, existing concrete pavement area there, if I recall, which is not and then you're at the out of the right of way. So we didn't have a lot of room for landscaping, didn't have a lot of room for anything. But what we thought to do, since we were able to do it on the signature block, is again maybe introduce parallel parking where maybe we could capture an additional 3 feet of paving that we could add brick to. So it'd be an extension of the existing concrete that's there, extend out into the street as the walkway, which is more conducive to downtown. Now you have, instead of a 4 foot wide, now you have at least 7 foot. And if it was 4.5 foot, I can't remember what it was, but I say 4, I know it was less than 5, I think. So you have almost close to almost a 7.5 foot walkway, which is you're in the downtown area, with that 3 foot of that strip being some type of colored pavement or brick. And by that being, it's already flush for the most part. That's why there are car stops there. We could treat that like we did the other area. And with it being parallel parking, obviously that's where the brick and the asphalt would meet, and we could have bollards along there as well to separate, unless we can work with EEI and able to get that roadway ground down so that we can sufficiently park a car and it has the appropriate barrier. The reason why we were trying to work with the existing concrete that was there, again, for financial reasons. We just wanted to work. Plus, it didn't look like it had been in there too long anyway. It looked like it was in fairly decent condition. The only problem we foresaw with it is, one, its existing width, and its elevation. The elevation is almost equal to the street. It's the exact, almost the same elevation as the street. So that's what that red strip is along that west side. That's that expanded walkway, sidewalk, that is installed in brick paving along that coincides with the parallel parking there, that is pushed out into the street a little more. And then we are also able to take advantage of the Village Hall, at least create a home and a plaza in front of it that says, hey, these are some people in downtown area. This is the people downtown. This is the Village Hall. So we kind of removed some of the parking stalls from that area and created more of an island there that could provide paving, a colored paving, a bench or two, maybe add a couple more flags. I know you have one flagpole there, so maybe we could put maybe 3 or so in there, one for the state, one for the county, and definitely Hampshire's flag, or flags of your choice. It's just something to think about, but definitely create a home and almost an arrival center for the Village Hall there, again on the west side. Not sure exactly what's going to take place in the adjacent facility there, between that with the awning as overhead canopy and the canopy across Jefferson there, because I know that building is in transition. So we just did some minor improvements there, and other than getting to the corner there with the bulb out. Across the street, obviously, that concrete looked like it was in good condition. But so other than that, the intersection treatment there, we were working with that concrete, but yet bearing in mind there are quite a few, a couple of, we'll say, access points, parking access points we needed to make sure that were definitely respected. So, but we did want to make sure that the visibility was not impacted. So that's why we were able to take advantage. Hello? I don't know if my earpiece dropped. Can you hear me?
Yep, loud and clear.
Okay, I thought my earpiece dropped. Nevertheless, so we did take advantage of those by eliminating some of the painted striped parking areas that were there and creating more of the islands that we could put a tree or two there and yet guide the traffic into these areas, or at least they could at least have more visibility for those cars entering and or exiting either the drive aisle, the couple drive aisles there, or alleyway. And then of course you get to the signature block that we spoke of. When you get to the going northward, get to the on the other side of the signature block, again we treated it in the same manner as we did the south end. Just did minor improvements there. You'll see at a couple of the intersections along beginning at Wren, we just did what we would call corner treatments. They're not a bulb out per se, just corner treatments of brick to again get that color at the ground plane, to yet signalize you're leaving the downtown, or depending on the way you're coming, you're accessing that roadway coming into downtown. We do foresee, because it's the roadway being more asphalt. So what we did is, what we did there at the intersections, let the crosswalks be concrete. So there'll be 5-foot scores of concrete and flanked by brick panels, soldier course brick panels, and then of course some type of containment before it meets the asphalt again. So it would definitely provide that color as well as direction into the downtown area. And we did that again at Mill Street as well as Keys. And you can see when we're getting to the railroad there, I know there's a right of way. I believe it's a 100-foot right of way. I don't know if permission has been granted to do much there. So we did very minor, didn't do a lot there at all, to be honest with you. But I think that by that being almost in the center of town, something's got to be done. But nevertheless, we picked up to the north of the railway on the village property, not on the railroad property. And that sidewalk looked like it was in good condition. So we left the concrete in, but yet trying to get some color as well as some green in. There's a lot of parking spaces there. However, there are a couple overhead doors and access points, drive aisles that need to be contended with. So unfortunately, it seems like that parking needs to go in lieu of some greenery. But I'm sure we'll probably get some pushback there. But nevertheless, we did respect the fact that those cars parked right there next to those overhead doors. And I don't know if they've had problems with visibility or incidents entering and exiting, but we're mindful of that. So we and then of course we did do the corner treatment that is a bulb out at Keys. It bulbs out only on the State Street side, but on the Keys Street side, it meets flush with the existing curb that's there.
And I want to just add that it was important from a grant perspective that we're able to show that the key block, what's been identified as Festival Boulevard, is part of a larger phased plan. We're not intending that any of the grant dollars go towards anything that's either north or south of that festival block, because we're not going to have enough money.
But you can just see that the theme is just carried out for future phases. There's a theme
Correct.
that was carried out. That's really the goal of this particular concept.
And I think it's the theme that we're looking to the Beautification Committee
Yes, to comment on.
to as saying, we're on the right track or we're not on the right track, or go back to the drawing board. Or put that kite, that thing, that fly thing right in the middle.
The kite,
What's it called?
a sail, Freddie,
I'm
sail.
sorry, I apologize.
Well, I personally think we're on completely right track. I think that's exactly what I've always thought when we talked about it the last couple of years, even on the BDC and then with the Beautification Committee. I think it's awesome. I think it's perfect. I do agree with Phil, though, about the bubble area. You know, and I know I mentioned about the railroad tracks, but I think he's right, too, because there's a lot of seniors in town, and, you know, sometimes they do, you know, like we have enough parks. We put a lot of money into parks in the town. So I think that would be, it's a cool thing. I do like the idea of a fountain, though. I mean, the fountain might be kind of a cool, just little, you know, but yeah, other than that, I think you guys did a fantastic job.
Okay. That's fair. We'll look at some other type of water feature. Again, if that's the concept where the clock stays at that intersection, which if it does, we just want to make sure it's something that doesn't compete. That's why it was something, a low profile that was proposed there. If the clock does go back to, or is proposed for the Jefferson and the State Street concept, or at least at that intersection, we could do a feature fountain down here. Nothing extravagant, but just enough. Because there's something about water in a downtown area. It's the sound of it that is very attractive and could make a good terminus, obviously, for the block as well, for the signature festival area as well.
And if I have a vote too, I really do like it at the clock at Jefferson and State instead of Washington, just because I think there's a little bit more traffic, you know, like people going to blocks, but people going in that area. I think it would be cool there, but I know you guys can all have your opinions on it too, but I just like it there. I don't know, for some reason, I think I got it into my head when Jeff at Magazine had originally said that they were thinking over by James Motors by the awning over there. So now my vote would be to keep it at Jefferson.
Are you talking about like in front of the Rose Garden or in front of James?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Either side of the street. I think just that intersection would be good. You know, I think that would be a little bit more visibility for like more, like I said, like people going to blocks, going to church, going to the parks. I think it will be more visible there, even though I know it's a big clock. It's going to be visible. But you know what I mean? It's going to be more prominent right there. So that's just my vote.
Okay.
Daryl, I was asked the same question about preference on either intersection. Either one is fine. What I find refreshing is that you're approaching from a standpoint of you don't want them to compete. So if you have other elements, you're putting them in different locations so your approach, I appreciate. It's good. Either or. If I was asked a preference, whichever one would appear that it's more the downtown.
Correct.
Maybe if that might be then at the corner of Jefferson, I guess. It's kind of, I think it would look just as nice at the other end in front of the library, but.
Hello. I'm still on this call. Oh, okay. I'll call you when we're done. Bye.
Any more comments? We're good. I will say I am planning on, I believe I was asked to attend that July 8th meeting, I believe.
Yeah.
So I will be at that meeting. I believe we're planning in talking with Jay, the goal is to have decided on one concept prior to that meeting, because I know there is a schedule, obviously, that Freddie's working with too. So I believe between then and now, based off your comments that I'm hearing today, we should pursue the concept A, just with the clock tower at Jefferson's. Not tower, sorry, the vintage clock at the intersection of Jefferson and State, as well as look at some other type of water feature, standalone feature at the terminus of outside the library there at the terminus of the signature block. Did I summarize that
Yes.
correctly?
Very well.
Yep.
What about the parking?
I'm sorry.
What
Oh,
about the parking configuration?
I like the parking with one or the other, like, like one side parallel, one side angled over the concept B. It's got half and half, the split.
Mm-hmm.
I like concept A personally.
We want it village board.
I was,
You guys are so quiet. Is there anybody else at the meeting still?
yeah, I'm with Eileen on the parking spots. From a maintenance standpoint and snow removal standpoint, the sawtooth thing, though very cool, and allows the ability to add the trees. I think from street sweeping and snow removal would be a bit of a problem.
Oh, I know they would hate me. The maintenance guys would definitely cuss my name out every year. I knew that when we did it. But again, we needed a throwaway. But no, I do think it was a good way to get vegetation into that area, given the character of the facilities that are there, or the facades. But no, I definitely understand that from a maintenance point of view.
I appreciate the multiple proposals, especially in light of working with the limits that you have, and that is street width. We have a problem on our hands, so I appreciate you working with it and the proposals that you did.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
Anything else that you guys need to share?
Anything else on this subject?
I had a question on the street lights that we were talking about. We were talking earlier about our, Wayfarer signs.
Mm-hmm.
So those that you're proposing on the where am I at? On either concept, I guess the one we were talking about, the acoustic type lights, but the concept street light option A. Are those types that can hold street signs as well, or are they strictly ornamental for down the street? Is it something separate than what we'd be using for street lights?
Oh, no, they are definitely ornamental and decorative, but they provide that structural element. For one, that's what we're recommending or proposing, that the string lights, the catenary light system, be attached to, so as not to have to attach them to the facades of the facilities. That's one of the reasons why we're kind of looking at those. But so it is a structural element. It's enough to withstand, or at least provide enough structure for the banners, because sometimes there's a wind factor there, as well as any street signs that will be required.
So they would go on the corners where the existing ones that we have now, they would replace like those existing lot. Okay.
You have very few
cool.
there. We're saying you probably need more. You have very few street lights in town.
Yeah, we really do. It's very dim. That's been one of the things, is that when the Copper Barrel came in and she added in the lighting, they added in their lighting, that was like the brightest part of town, because everything is very dim. So we definitely need more. But I was just saying, because we were trying to do some research on the Wayfair signs. So I was thinking, okay, if that's a double duty kind of thing that we can then, add on, the plans for whatever design we wanted onto those, that'd be great. Okay, perfect.
Anything else that you all need Daryl or me for?
Can you start from the beginning and just go over all the details?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, sure.
Talk to
Bring out the
Jimmy,
popcorn.
taking
Let's
a
let it go.
Dinosaurs take me all the way to the current day.
To be noted, he's already packed up and ready to go.
That's the beauty of me doing this from my home office, because I can eat and drink while you all are talking.
Okay.
All righty.
Thank you, Daryl.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Definitely appreciate the invite, and we'll definitely look forward to seeing you guys on the 8th, or the remnants thereof.
Very good. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
You guys take care.
Okay.
Thanks again for your input.
Yep.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, ready?
Okay. On to the next item. Lynn Acker, presentation of
Freddie Schmuddy.
Is now exiting.
Lynn, we didn't lose you, did we?
No, I got blotted out by the people that were exiting.
Just want to make sure you're still there. Next item we've got is under old business. Lynn Acker from Faithway Baptist Church has done a fantastic job, both in the presentation of and proposal of the grant, as well as the speed with which they have accomplished a lot of exterior work to the church over there. It really looks great. I stopped by at one point and they were real close to finishing up, and was admiring the siding, the window wraps. They took the time to preserve the architectural trim work, which has since been wrapped with, I think, aluminum. And then the guys doing the job, just looking at the fit and finish of the work that they did, I was thoroughly impressed. Job very well done. I had an opportunity to review a series of the invoices. Be reminded that the bulk of this, I think if not all of it, is for the most part material. There's very little labor involved in this, and the costs of the materials came in very, very close to what originally was proposed. It was well presented. Also, the summary sheet is what I'm looking at right now, Lynn. Thank you for generating that. It's a list of the estimated costs as well as what actually was incurred. And the two are very, very close. There weren't any significant deviations from the original scope of the project, was there, Lynn? From what I recall, it was pretty much dead nuts on. You didn't encounter any surprises.
No, we knew we were going to need some boards and so forth, but we had allowed for that. I think two things that were different, and one was minor. The lights that we originally planned on from Home Depot were not available when we went to get them. We switched and went to Menards, so it was a different light. And they actually came in a little less expensive. And then we were able to do 2 more doors. And part of that came about because the doors, we were able to get some sale prices. We actually ended up getting 4 doors for the price of 3.
I understand. And those were, which 4 exterior doors were they? If you could, I know the building faces north, and then your side elevation is facing towards east. Where were the 4 doors that you were able to successfully replace?
Okay, the 2 doors are physically on Elm Street itself. And then there's 2 doors that are in the alleyway, which is visible from Elm Street.
Yes. Okay. I just wanted you to clarify that for me because visually I had taken an inventory of it, I couldn't recall. Yes, I remember the back side or the south elevation. You can clearly see that from Elm, both the elevation as well as the windows and doors back there. The final totals that came in were very, very close to what was originally proposed. Where do we have a total on here? I'm looking at multiple. I see the award for what was approved by the board before, and it's within, I think, a couple $100 of what you actually incurred. Does that sound about right?
That is correct.
What's the award just for the notes?
18,430 was the amount that was approved by the village board. Jeannie, you're asking?
Yeah, so that just put both the approved and then.
Previously approved was 18,430 and 50 cents. Does that sound right, Josh? Okay. And the final item that you have listed in bold, Lynn, as a grant request, that's the amount that you've incurred and that you're seeking reimbursement for, correct?
Yes, there's one minor change there. It's actually a little bit less. It should be 18,294.72.
18,294.72 was the final amount, correct?
Correct.
Is the grant amount, Jeannie. The costs incurred were far more. This is,
Right, yes,
okay.
right,
So-
yeah, I got the approved.
So-
So you say,
Which is good.
Yeah, and this is the net amount. Okay. Eileen, are you still with us?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure we still had our necessary quorum. Are you catching everything I'm talking about in terms of the ultimate dollar amounts that?
Yep.
Okay. Do you have any questions? I looked at the individual invoices already. Lynn had sent those to me. what I'm working off of right now is the summary that he composed that summarizes everything. Do you have any questions for us or for Lynn Acker? Eileen?
Me? No, I think it looks awesome. I don't know, did you send the figures that you're saying that you looked at, that you're looking at, did you send those out, or are you just looking at me?
Linda, when I talked to her, well, by email I talked to her, I didn't physically talk to her. She was gonna forward the summary as well that Lynn had sent. Did you not get that?
I didn't, but I don't know if I'm still connected. I always have an issue with I thought my Hampshire mail was connected to my regular one, but I haven't checked in on that in a while. But it's not a big deal. I mean, I know that you guys would catch anything that you had questions on. So no, I think it looks great, and I think I think everything was perfect.
Okay. What we're charged with doing tonight is to make a recommendation for approval. That will in turn, I think, go to the BDC, or does it go directly to the village board?
This actually doesn't even need to come to this committee,
Okay.
because it's not a policy vote that anybody has to take. It's kind of like if we want to buy a new police car. Once we buy the police car, then we take it to the board, just accounts payable, and they just approve all the accounts payable at once. So this is like an accounts payable item.
But you do like.
I definitely appreciate you looking through it, and making sure the numbers are correct before we take it.
Okay.
And then what I'll do is just basically fill out a check request for Lori from the finance department, and she'll get it in the accounts payable.
Okay. In reviewing the invoices, I had no concerns. Nothing was consistent with what was originally submitted. It actually came in a little bit less. So with that being said, it sounds like we don't need a recommendation or a vote of any type.
Are you, Lynn, right? That's the.
Yeah, Lynn.
These have already been paid, correct?
I'm sorry, say again, please?
These costs have already been paid out, correct? And you have like receipts or something?
Yes, that was attached with the documents I submitted.
Okay, so yeah,
Linda will have those, because
okay.
he covered me at the same time that he said everything to Linda, so she should have a complete package of all the expenses incurred.
Perfect.
With that being said, then, like I said, I reviewed it. So if that's all you need from us or from me or whatever is a review, a blessing of what we saw, that we've got.
Perfect. I got it from Linda.
Okay.
It will be on in the Thursday village board meeting.
Great. How far out is that next meeting? Would that be?
This week.
Oh, this week?
Yeah.
So today's Monday.
Today's Monday, and the agenda is sent out on Tuesday, so just tomorrow morning I'll get it ready to roll.
Okay, so this, the approval or to issue the payment then would be on the agenda for the village board on
It'll be in the accounts payable.
the accounts payable for that, okay. Very good. Did anyone else have anything further as it pertains? Anyway? Me too. Yeah. That's the stomach growl. We don't have any public comment that I'm aware of. Anybody, other than that, next meeting, we probably need to schedule a date. Well, I'll do that based on when everybody's in. We're approaching the time of the year, and I tried to reschedule tonight's meeting, and unfortunately it didn't work out so well. People were out, but we'll try and do something. Maybe we need to get back together for the signs, the wayfinding signs. So that's to be determined. Other than that, I think that's everything we had to cover, unless anyone has anything else. I'll entertain a motion.
No, I have a quick question then. As far as Mike is concerned, are we just now, because this is all in the wayfinding signs and stuff, how do you want me to go about it? Because we don't obviously need, do we need pricing still, or do we not, because it's in the streetscape plan?
I think if there's still work to be done, it's to arrive at a proposed sign along with the answers to the bracketry that we're gonna use. Beyond that, is your question more like, are we gonna attach them to the streetlights? Is that it, or?
Well, yeah, because if it's already in the existing plan, I think Josh had brought that up at our last meeting, that if it's already in the existing streetscape plans, are we kind of double doing? And I don't want to keep having Mike do all this research if we're not even going to use them.
Right, you're asking the right questions at the right time. Josh, did you have something to contribute?
So PRI may include that into their plan just generically. but all the work that this committee has done on what the sign should look like, where it's gonna come from, where it's gonna be placed, is all gonna be relevant, and the pricing there, the pricing coming from that is something that PRI wouldn't be able to just pick up and run with. So getting the pricing at this committee's level and then being able to hand that whole wrapped up package to PRI and say, will you incorporate this as your sign plans, would be good, I think.
Okay.
Okay.
So forge ahead with, design and costs, both.
Correct.
Got it.
Gotcha.
Okay, good question, Eileen. Right, we don't wanna put in the effort to something that really isn't necessary, so. Good question. With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Eileen, you wanna second it?
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, done. It is, what is it, 8:50 backwards? 8:53?
Boy, Bill, you were breaking some records tonight.